the Know Your Gear podcast. The Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. Thank you for making this possible.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Know Your Gear podcast, episode 415. I hope everybody had a fantastic week. Ready to talk about guitar, especially because we're getting towards the end. Next week is the last day, June 6th. We're giving away, Guitar Center and us are giving away a $2,000 limited edition Fender Ash Telecaster that's chambered. It's sandblasted ash with a roasted maple neck. I'm pointing at it right here, by the way. With two Seymour Duncan pickups and a hard shell case. So if you haven't entered, please use the link down below and enter. And something came up, and it's I did some verifications just so there's no confusion. So I had a patron member, which is fine, say that they didn't like giving their email address to a third party to be sold. So I reached out to the company that I hired. What they do is they do two things. They input your email address only, and they put it in a randomizer so that I can't, pick the person I want. It's just, it randomly selects an email address. I pay for this service, so I asked them about that, and I have their response, and I'd like to read it to you guys to be very, 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 very clear. So here is their official response to my inquiry about selling your email addresses. Okay, so I can't find it. Oh, here it is. No, it isn't. See, I should have had it queued up. I'm going to have to do it from memory if I don't find it on this phone fast enough. I may not be able to find their response on my email. Hold on a second. Oh, okay, cool. Ready? No, we do not sell email addresses. You pay for the premium package. You own the email addresses. If people are, basically, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. They're saying if you are getting an email from them, it is most likely because you entered another contest somewhere else that they did not pay to hold your email addresses. So in other words, yes, in that case, they would get your email addresses and they can solicit you, but they said that you would get a disclosure saying that. And or if you are getting emails, it's because that other entity that's holding the contest, they're email blasting you. I have never email blasted anyone ever on this channel. In other words, I have all the emails from all the contests and all the things I've ever done and people on my website, but I don't send an email blast. So what's my point? My point is they're not doing it to you and I'm not doing it to you. So if you're getting it done, it wasn't from us, even if it's from that company, because you could have entered other things in the past. So that is the official answer. In case you're concerned, I'm the only one that sees your email addresses. In fact, they said they can't even see them. Only I can see them. So, and I only see the ones that that's randomly picks you as the winner. That's the one I see. I don't even go look at the other ones. All right, that's the answer. So join the contest if you so wish to win a $2,000 Telecaster. Here's what's interesting. It has there's not very many interests comparable. You have a very good chance of winning. Even if it doubled, you'd be doing pretty good. You have a pretty good odds of winning this guitar. I normally wouldn't condone, gambling or whatever. But in this drawing case, a $2,000 limited edition Tele for this many entries, competition is very low. So there you go. That's the official answer. I just thought I'd let you know that I did look into that, and that was what their official response is. Okay. Which is what I understood when I paid them for the service, is why I paid for them. Because you can get the service for free, and it does the same thing. It just, it apparently doesn't protect the information. Okay, what do we got? We got so many things. I got early questions. I got subjects. I got a guitar of the week with an interesting, what am I trying to say? Problem? I want to say problem, but I don't know whether it's like credibility issue, problem. We'll talk about it. Okay. Topic number one. I got topics. You guys were sending topics today. I thought that was great. I love it. In fact, from now on, if you're asking a question, put a question mark first, and that way Amanda can see that and grab that for you and send it to me. Or you could do a super chat if you want to get it in the colored, kind of in my face thing. Or you could start the subject with topic to let me know it's a topic you want to talk about. And that helps me understand what I'm getting into when I start. This first topic came from Karen, who says, hey, for Phil. It's for me. It says, I fell in love with the lo-fi sound of Dane Electro guitar, but I'm worried about the short scale. I play Teles and Strats, but I want to swap a lo-fi guitar like a Dan Electro. Suggestions. No, I don't think you're going to have any issues at all. Most players do not interpret the shorter scale, especially like 24 3/4 to 25 1/2 to the, so think about this, the Fender 25 1/2 to PRS 25 to, like a Gibson 24 3/4, or even that T15 that I did at PV that's 23 inch scale. Or was it 23 1/2? I can't remember. 23 1/2. It was short. A Mustang at 24 even. I think most guitar players are not going to interpret that scale as being dramatic to them. It's not like it's going to be super foreign to you, and in the idea that it's like, I can't form chords, or I can't do that. I don't think there's anything to worry about. Some players, what I notice more so, and I think most guitar players, look, a lot of players are going to have a lot of theories, but I'm talking about, and I want to tell you where I get the information from. It's the years and years of setting up guitars for players and what they reacted to and what they see and how they feel. Most players seem to react when it comes to scale length to tension, the feel, which is why sometimes, like I said, you can change strings to also get that same kind of effect. Most players, when they pick up a Strat, it's not so much it's longer to play for your fingers as so much as that when you bend, you feel the tension. You feel it's a little harder to bend than, let's say, a 24 3/4 scale guitar. So I think that's where you'll notice it most. And then if you do, for instance, if you notice, that let's say you play nines on your Fenders and you notice the nines are just really rubbery on the shorter scale guitar, maybe you should go up to tens, and that's one way you can kind of adjust that. So it's just a, I wouldn't think about it. Wendell says 24 3/4 is cramped, but my hands are unusual. So it's true. I mean, if you have a bigger hands, it could be a thing. Sometimes players will actually say the opposite. Shorter scale is more difficult to play than a longer scale. I don't necessarily notice myself. I don't seek it out. In other words, I don't seek out certain scale in guitars. I have both 24 3/4, 24 inch scale. I say both. That's two right there. I got to say more now. I have all the scales. I have 25 1/2, 25, 24 3/4, 24. The only thing I'm not a big fan of is I'm not a big fan of the 26, 27 fan scales as much, the fan fret systems. They're fine, but I don't downtune that much. So I don't think you need to worry about it. I would do it. That's my 2 cents. Let's see. This is a good one. Randy's Music and Recording says, hey, I'm putting a new volume pod in a Made in Mexico Strat. Could not get the solder undone. Iron was hot, too hot, about 900 degrees. I'm assuming you mean Fahrenheit. I run mine about 820 degrees Fahrenheit. So I run my soldering iron hot. Everybody can run their soldering iron how they like. That's just, I'm telling you how I run mine, about 800 degrees. Why does this happen? Obviously, I just cut the wires, plenty of wire available. Okay, sure, you can just cut the wires. So there's a couple things. First of all, let's talk about the three most common things when you're unsoldering, desoldering a piece of equipment out of an instrument. And we're talking about guitars. I'm not talking about amplifiers or anything else. First of all, always make sure you make a solder to solder connection. In other words, so sometimes when you put the soldering iron on a glob of solder on a pot, it is a lot better to go ahead and put some solder on the iron first and then put the solder to solder connection. So the solder's already kind of liquefied. Always just kind of go to solder connections. That's the first and probably the most, that's the best advice I could give anyone. That's one. Two, it could be the solder tip you're using. Some use a point, some use I don't know the names of the soldering tips. I probably did at one point. The one I use looks like a flathead screwdriver at an angle, so I'm going to say it's a flathead tip. I used to use the point. I prefer the flathead tip. A bigger soldering tip will conduct more of that heat, disperse more of that heat to the existing solder, especially if there's solder on that tip. That would help you as well too. The last one is sometimes, especially, because you said made in Mexico, so I'm like, it's obviously not like a 70-year-old guitar, 60-year-old guitar. It could be lead-free solder, which is really hard sometimes to liquefy, and that becomes a little problematic as well. And so, yeah, it takes a lot more heat, and that isn't also a problem. So you could be having that issue as well. This is real common. So, the biggest problem usually players have for an issue with soldering is desoldering the 2 globs of solder on the bottom of a humbucker where the cover solders to the base. It's really hard. And I've had to actually use like a Dremel, one of those cutting wheels, and cut them out sometimes and just kind of grind it all out. And, sometimes you have to do that. So like you said, you could just cut all the stuff out. But I would definitely make sure that you're using a solder to solder connection, and then use a larger tip to disperse the heat out better instead of focusing. Because what happens sometimes if you have a very focused point, you're focusing all that heat in one spot, and as it's liquefying, the outside is not liquefying, and then you kind of move it, and then that hardens back up, and that's kind of where you get trapped in that. But so that's Matt Harrison said lead free is no bueno. I can't stand it. I can't stand lead free solder. It's such a pain in the ass. So yeah. And Noise Bloom says I use a chisel tip. That's probably what that tip is called. I'm sure it's what it reminds me of. It's kind of flat. I use it. But the main thing you're worried about is this: as you leave that 900 degree soldering iron on that glob and it's not liquefying, what's probably happening is it's transferring all the heat. That's why you want solder connections, because it's going to transfer all the heat to the pot, and then it's going to cook the pot out, and then it's ruined. So that's number one. I'd say out of all the things people solder and I see burn marks on, like I see a lot of burn marks on switch tips or switches, the actual switches. I see burn marks on output jacks. I've never seen any damage from those burns, but a potentiometer, man, you can cook that out and like no problem. You can make that to where it's no good anymore if you overheat them. So that's why a lot of people suggest you use a lower heat setting. I always just suggest, I've seen it all. I find that people just use the temperature they can work within. I move pretty fast and I don't have any problems, so I keep my iron a little hotter, but I do turn it down from time to time if I know I'm going to have to put it on there for a longer period of time. Because again, I don't want to burn up. The other thing you can do is you can use alligator clips as like heat sinks. So, you can use those little alligator clips that I always suggest you guys have. And you can put them on certain components around where you're soldering, and they'll suck up a lot of that heat. Literally, they'll just, I don't know, I'm using the word suck up the heat, but you get the idea. They'll contain a lot of that heat and reduce how far it disperses and how much of it disperses that heat. So there's some quick suggestions. We have, I don't know. I got more. Sean Brooks. Hey, Phil, why doesn't Fender Custom Shop carry the same stigma as PRS when it comes to being the dentist guitars? That's a great question. And I actually have a theory on that. And why PRS, and not even Fender Custom Shop, why does PRS have the dentist lawyer stigma, but like Gibson doesn't? And you could argue that PRSs on average cost more than Gibsons, but Gibsons are expensive too. Like, I don't know how to make that kind of assessment, but I think there's two things, right? Cars are that way too. I was at the mall. This is like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, because it was during COVID and there was nobody in the mall. It's like nobody. Sean and I walk in the mall, and they had some BMW sitting there, and it was for sale. And and she walks with the BMW, and she's like, I think she says something like $80,000 or $75,000 or $80,000. She's like, that's crazy. And I look over, and there's a Dodge truck sitting, also in the mall. They haven't displayed new cars, like go to so-and-so courtesy, Dodge and courtesy BMW or whatever. And I said, I bet you that truck costs more. And she goes, no way. And she walks over and she goes, that truck's $85,000. I go, yeah. So the point is, but if you see somebody in a BMW, you think it's a rich person. If you see somebody in a truck that costs $10,000 more than a BMW, you don't think anything of it. I think there's a little bit of stigma that happens, not so much with the cost of something, but just the appearance of it. And here is my theory why PRS gets the dentist lawyer rhetoric. Somebody's going to say, they're going to say in the comments, and you're welcome to it, but I got to kind of hit you ahead of time. They're going to say, well, it's because real players play Gibson and no real players play PRS. But of course, I don't really agree with that. I think more studio musicians and working musicians play PRS than probably any other brand, next to probably Fender. No, I think it's because PRS guitars look like fancy furniture. That's what I think. When I went to the PRS event, the first time I ever went to a PRS event, I think I've only been one or maybe two. But anyways, I was at one. I was with a friend. We're walking up and down looking at all these gorgeous guitars. And I said, oh, that one's nice. And he goes, yeah, I guess. And I go, do you like PRS? And he looks around and he goes, this just looks like fancy furniture to me. And I'm like, and when he said that, I couldn't unsee it. I'm like, yeah, every PRS looks like the most beautiful piece of furniture you could put in your house is what I'd want that to look like. I don't do that, but I'm just saying, I have IKEA furniture like most people. Just the reality of my life. It's like, I feel like I've gone fancy whenever I have furniture that I don't put together, I feel like I'm literally a billionaire. Just so you guys know. I'm like, if Shauna says, hey, I ordered a new desk, I'm like, okay, I got my Allen wrenches. But when you don't put it together, you feel like, I don't know about you guys, I feel fancy. Like when a moving person comes in, drops off the piece of furniture and leaves, and I'm like, is that already put together? Who did that? Back to PRS. I think that's what it is. I think they're furniture. It's not my thing either. Again, looking at it, just a smorgasbord of guitars behind me. That German-made Framus has a beautiful flame top, and I guess the Gretsch, it doesn't have a flame top. And the Heritage has a nice top. But other than that, red painted Gibson, Sunburst, yellow Ibanez, obviously the IKEA caster's red, my copper Strat or Delos Strat, a Sunburst Strat, a blue headless guitar. I'm just not really into the fancy woods, which I think PRS are known for. And I think that's why they get hit with the whole doctor lawyer, because it's a fancy guitar for fancy people. I feel like if you own a PRS, you should be drinking tea like this. Be like, in fact, if I ever see somebody do this, I feel like the next thing they're going to say is, what model PRS do you own? It's the Grey Poupon of guitars. But sadly enough, that imagery of PRS, regardless of what anybody says, is followed by some of the best construction and execution of guitars on the market. They set the standard for what most guitar companies should be doing when it comes to quality. If you say they don't do anything for you, totally understand. I have owned a gazillion PRSs trying to find one that does something for me. It's funny. I've owned more. I have owned more. How do I want to say this? I want to say it the perfect way because I want to say it. It's 100% accurate. I'm going to tell you. PRS has a special, like if I was going to give awards to guitars that I've ever had, PRS has a special award. I have churned more PRSs than any guitar in my entire life. In other words, I have owned more PRSs that I've gotten rid of. In other words, out of all the guitars I ever bought, I have bought and flipped and got rid of more PRSs than any guitar brand. Not even a close second. No close second. It's double the next runner-up. Because it's hard for me to find a PRS that I like. Because I appreciate their quality. I've been to their factory four times. I appreciate their craftsmanship. I appreciate their mission. I appreciate what they're trying to do. And like a lot of people, I play them and I go, it's good. Now here's my crappy Strat, right? And that's just where I go. So I've owned a lot of PRSs. And where I've landed, which is what is sad for me, is my favorite PRSs are the one that Nathan made me, which is not like anything they currently make or ever made in the past. My S2 that they no longer make, which is the S2 semi-hollow, which has a lot of defects, but I just like the way it, and my Mira, which they no longer make as a core model. That's the PRSs I like. Yeah. So I always tell, I have said this to the PRS guys every once in a while when I bump into them at like a show or something. I'll say, every PRS I have, you don't make anymore. It's like I'm a curse. In fact, actually, I can beat that. Check this out. I have a PRS S2 semi-hollow single cut. They no longer make it. I have a PRS hollow body 2 single cut. They no longer make that. I have a PRS Mira core guitar. They no longer make that. So it's like if I buy a PRS guitar and it sticks and I like it, they're going to stop making it. So if you guys want any PRS guitars to go away, if you want a strategy, just get me to get one. And as soon as I buy one, they will no longer make it. Something instinct. I don't know what it is. So that's my take on PRS, which is funny because I think that's why people think I like PRS the most, because they're like, you always have another PRS. I'm like, yeah, because I'm always looking for that one. I'm looking for a fancy one that I love. I just never found it. But I like the quality and I like the company and I like the mission of making a great guitar. This will really hit harder later. This is called foreshadowing. When I show you the guitar of Guitar of the Week, you're going to be like, okay, I see why Phil thinks the way he does. Okay, or maybe not. Maybe I'll be totally off. Okay, let's go. I'm still on the early riser questions. These are questions that were put in before the show even starts, and I want to thank you guys for doing that. It's a nice way to have like some topics to start the show off with. Jeremy says, hey, a topic for discussion. I really like the Spark and other modeling amplifiers for practice and for trying different tones and effects. But I find they make all my guitars sound essentially the same regardless of the pickups. That is exactly what a lot of modeling does. And the reason why I was told by some of the modeling experts that build these things or help design them is that a lot of it is because it's in the program of the effects. In other words, let's talk about this. I have tube amplifiers behind me for today. A tube amplifier would work is, you put a hot pickup in front of it. It's going to push the input stage of the amp, and the amp starts to distort a little bit and break up a little bit. And, you roll the volume back off and it cleans up a little bit. And that's just how it's reacting. Where if you put a hot pickup in a modeling amp, the modeling amp may dampen that down a little bit. But if you put a weak pickup in a modeling amp, it might push it up a little bit. So in other words, like exactly what you're saying, it's kind of the whole point of a modeler is to give you a quote unquote perfect sound, right? I would say one of the things that people hate about modeling technology is the same thing that people hate about compressors, is that they make everything sound, perfect, which is sometimes not a great sound. The idea that, you want some of the inconsistencies of highs and lows and sharps and I don't know why I say I'm sharps, but you get the idea. Highs and lows and loud, let the amp distort a little bit, break up a little bit, hit a little harder, breaks up. But I do believe that even though you're saying that, and I agree with you, the amp still does do a good facsimile of what it's supposed to be doing. The one thing I will tell you is that you can roll back your volume knob, and that will really tell you if, the amp is really reacting to you. Because if you roll the volume back halfway, the amp should really clean up a lot. So it's just one of the things that's a drawback of that technology. It's not necessarily. I will tell you one thing that I've learned to cure that for me when I'm using, whether it's a solid state amp that also has that kind of problem, or a digital amp or digital product. Like I use a Kemper most of the time. Anytime I'm playing personally, I'm playing through a Kemper. But I use a boost pedal and compression type pedals like the Servo by Taurus or the Enhancifier by, I don't know who's by, it's an Enhancifier. It's an Enhancifier. And there's tons of versions of those pedals. These kind of boost compression type pedals, I like them in front of digital and solid state amps because of the fact that they kind of give me that same, they put back some of the experience that I told you that I like, which is the reactive part, the fact that it feels like, that there's something, coming back and forth between you and the amplifier. But, yeah, so Michael says, hey, my Fractal doesn't do that. All my guitars sound different. I don't use a lot of effects, just an amp, cab, and reverb. Yeah, I mean, I would say, actually, I would say my Kemper doesn't do as well. that would be obviously the reason why they're so much more expensive, because of the fact that essentially when you buy a modeling technology, you're buying a computer. It's why, if you really, you're really into that stuff and then you know that that's why some of them will use multiple effects processors. That's why they'll offload. So for instance, like somebody like Larry Mitchell will use his fractal, but he'll use another unit for some additional effects because he doesn't want to overload the processor. That's really dumbing it down, but at least that's the concept I get from him, is that he wants, he doesn't want to stifle the unit, because again, it's like a computer. So you're playing through a computer. So Dexter says Phil still uses a Kemper and shit talks modeling. My age is showing. Dexter, it's not. Well, my age is showing, because what it is showing is that I am very open to all the ideas, which is a very, very hard, almost impossible thing to do on the internet, because everyone thinks that the world can be fixed with a hammer. This idea that there's one way to do something, you either use an expensive amp, or you use a cheap guitar, or you use an expensive guitar. This idea that there's one thing for everything. The reality is that modeling is very good, which is why I say it's very good, and tube amps are very good, but they don't all have the same needs. I would say, without a doubt, in my personal needs, is this: I wouldn't own a single modeling unit or plugin or profiling unit ever in my entire life if it wasn't for the fact that I record so much. And when I record, everything goes into the computer and into my monitors. So I'm already there listening to the monitors, and I'm listening to a drum track or a bass line or whatever I'm mixing with it, right? So to me, it's an easy process. It's like, and it almost feels silly sometimes to take the time to take a nice tube amp, mic it all up, put it in a different room, and then listen to it through monitors. I'm like, when I can really, at that point, I can't really tell what the tube is doing anymore from the modeler. So that's what it is. It's a usage thing, and that's what it is. Everybody should just find, if that's how you want to, when I say that, I mean the internet, whoever is out there that has these harsh opinions are like, hey, I like this and everything else is a bad idea. If that's how you want to roll, go. But I have two sides of my life. One is I make a living in music, whether people think so or not. It's music. I spend more time. In fact, a friend of mine and I had dinner a couple weeks ago, and he said, do you still like playing guitar? And do you get sick of playing the guitar? Or do you get sick of doing repairs, for videos and stuff? And I said, that's not my job. I said, my job is 90% of the time editing, recording and editing. That's like 90% of what I do, record and edit. So that's my job. Do I like it? I like it fine. Did I ever see myself as a recording editing person? Hell no. People will always see me as a repair person in a video, because that's what I'm doing in the video. But if you take, obviously, let's do some math. And I think it's because maybe this is insightful. If you watch a video that I put out that's 20 minutes long, let's say a deep dive, and I tell you guys honestly and truthfully that it takes me 2 days to do that video, and 2 days to me is a 6-hour plus day. Okay, so I'm saying one day could be a 6-hour day, and one day could be a 10-hour day. It doesn't matter. I just look at the day as like I start the day and I end the day, and that's just what it took. So 6 to 10 hours, that's how my schedule could work. Let's just call it 8 hours a day to keep it easy. So 12 hours. I spent 12 hours making that 20-minute video for you. No one really believes that I filmed 10 hours of footage. That's insane, right? How would I edit down? That'd be like editing down. 10 hours to 2 hours would be a lot. 10 hours to 20 minutes is silly. So filming wise, a 20-minute video, the max I could have in footage, the max is 2 40-minute files, maybe playing for 40 minutes, doing stuff for 40 minutes. So when I tell you guys that it took me, 12 hours to make a 20-minute video, you can do the math now in your head going, well, let's see, we'll give them, for argument's sake, we'll give them 2 hours for filming it. So what was he doing the rest of the time? It's research. it's editing, right? It's a lot of editing, and that's where you spend your time. So same thing with recording. When I record now, it's why all these musicians are doing what they're doing. It's like, do I want to spend my entire day trying to get this amp to sound as good on the computer as it does in this room? Or do I want to push a button on my profiler and I know it's going to sound like that does? And it's just the decisions everybody has to make. And when somebody says, oh, I have to have the real deal and I have to play the real thing, I totally understand. But I will tell you this, and I've said this as clear as I can say for almost 5 years now out of the many years of doing this, I would use a Kemper for 100% of everything I do, including YouTube. And I'm sure a lot of you, because you always do, you say nice things like, I wouldn't care if you did that. I'm fine with that. But the majority of people who respond to the videos that you put say, oh no, I wish you would have used a real amp so I have a real perspective. I don't have that device, or I don't know that device. So that's why I do it. That's why, like this week, if you notice, I did 2 deep dives this week. I did the, what did I do? I did the $1,000 basic EBC Rich. I played that through a $1,500 Synergy amp. And then I did a $200 Firefly, and I played that through let's say a $200 PV amp. Just for, not so much for comparison, but so that when you're watching it, you don't feel like, oh, he's stacking the deck, right? So that's my 2 cents on that. But like I said, use the tools that work for you, and don't screw yourself over ego. That's the only good advice I could ever give, and it'll never get better than that on this channel. Literally make a workflow that works for you, and then do it, because while you're doing it, people who are not doing it are going to sit there and critique you, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're the one getting it done. So do that. WizDog says, hey, Phil, did you ever get those UA pedals you said you might check out? I didn't. So if I get them, I'll probably pick them up used on Guitar Center. One of my patrons reached out, and he's got one, and he can either loan it to me or he'll sell it to me. And the problem is I only need them if I'm traveling for something, and I have a traveling project maybe happening. So it's one of those things. I don't know if I want to invest in them if I don't do that. Well, I know for a fact I don't want to spend even a couple $100 if I don't use them. I physically need to have a reason to use them for a compact rig. So that's all that's about. Oh, okay. Yeah. Irregular Star. Good question, man. I like this. Hey, Phil, I recently bought some nut lubricant. Yeah, this changes the whole channel today, doesn't it? But I had trouble applying it to the B and the E strings. And it's the high string. So the high B and the high B is the high B. High E and the B string. What do you do to make sure the lubricant gets there? So if you get Lubricant, K-I-T, from D'Addario, it comes with these little stick swab things with like micro Q-tips. That will help, but I don't use those. Here's what I've learned to do. I take the just when you lift the string out of the nut, I put a little bit of the lubricant at the part of the nut that is closest to the bridge. In other words, closest to the fretboard, this side. And then I put the string back in, and then you tune up the string, and the string brings the lubricant through. That's or you can literally take and put. It's basically just Vaseline, guys, right? Like it's some petroleum-based lubricant or whatever, nylon-based, whatever it is. I don't eat it, but it should not cause any problems with your skin. Read the packaging correctly, but I guess I should actually be more accurate. I've put it on my skin, and I still have skin on my fingers, so obviously it didn't dissolve and kill me. So I put a little bit on my finger, and I can actually put it on the underside of the string. Again, that's another technique. Just right underneath the string, right before the nut, when the string is down tuned, and then tune the string up. The string brings it across. It doesn't need much. It's no matter how much you use, you're overusing it. And I overuse it every time too. Everybody's overusing it. If you go to what you really need, it's almost nothing. So it just requires so little because there's just so little contact in there. Dr. Frankenstein says you can just use a graphite pencil. You can use a graphite pencil. The lubricants will work better. They just will. The graphite pencils work fine. I've said in the past, the only reason I don't use them is they make a mess a little bit. And if that bothers you, don't do it. And if it doesn't bother you, it doesn't bother me. I don't really care. But, and also, as I've also said, I usually adopt a lot of things because I was working on people's guitars for decades. So just that wasn't something that people don't want to really get a bill for $125 and then go, oh, you stuck a pencil there? Like, right? They like to oh, I used lubricant. I did right. We polished it. They want to know you use the right stuff. At least I feel like I should give them the value of that. Let's see. Yeah, Grumpy My Guitar said a little dabble. Do you? Sure, of course. So it works. Let's see. So on a side note, so this is where it gets troublesome on the live show because we get into topics and I just don't have any information, but I want to read it. So I read it. So Rich is saying the Earthquaker Devices, which is the pedal company, is in bankruptcy. Is the pedal space in trouble? I don't know. I did not see that they were in bankruptcy. I did, however, and the reason I'm reading this from you is I was just more curious if anyone else has heard anything. You could put that in the comments down below. I had seen a clickbaity news. I don't know what it was. It came in my Facebook feed or something, and it was a clickbaity, and it said. It looked like it was the owner of Earthquaker Devices saying the tariffs are going to put him out of business and they're going to file bankruptcy. That's what the clickbaity title said. And I clicked on it and I didn't really I don't remember what happened. I don't think it took me anywhere. So I wasn't sure what was going on with that. So I haven't heard. So I can tell you this, if you haven't noticed that the pedal companies are all giving you deals right now, the market is not the boom anymore. It's over. Regardless of all the political stuff, regardless of the market or the tariffs or whatever you guys want to talk about, the reality is before that stuff even came into play, we had already seen as an industry a huge slowdown, obviously because we were in a huge boom. And I say that because it's very important. When I talk to companies, which I talk to quite a few, they all seem to fit into three camps. And I've added the third camp recently since I've talked to the patrons about this. They're not doing well. And it might be the end. That's honest. I've had at least 3 conversations now with companies that are literally have said that in some way or another to me. And it was stressful to listen to. They're not doing well. They're booming and it's fine. In other words, either they're doing okay right now or they did so well in the past that they got the money to sit on and they're fine and they're just going to wait it out. That's I would say the bigger majority. And the third category is now slightly paranoid from what they're hearing. In other words, they're doing great or they're doing fine and they have money, but they're hearing things, and that's making them nervous. And that's the downfall of that boom market where, like I said, we mixed, essentially boredom, fear, money, and we all bought and they sold, and a lot of them beefed up their size of their companies, which makes sense, but a lot of them made decisions, in my opinion. And I say this again, and I mean nothing disrespectful, but I wish all the best for every company. I'm a guitar player and I want every guitar company to do well because I'm a freak for guitars and pedals and amps, but I will tell you there's a bunch of companies that I talked to during the boom that were so, in my opinion, incredibly wrong about what they were seeing and doing, and that I'm not shocked when I hear they're the ones doing badly. And what I mean by that is, I said this at the time, I'll tell you the quote, I kept saying it, I was like a broken record. I said, everyone's a genius in a bull market. They would go, Phil, they go, we'd love to send you this item to do a video, but man, we're sold out for the next 10 years and we're making so much money. We're actually telling our customers, you know how many companies told me they were going to punish their customers? This is an actual thing. The first time I heard it, I actually thought, what an asshole. And then I heard it again like a week later from another company and another company. I'm like, wow, what is going on here? And it was like, yeah, I'm telling my customers basically, and a lot of them were talking about dealers, right? They're like, if they're not going to give me the next 5 orders right up front right now in full, I'm not even going to think about taking their order. And I was like, what? And then they would say things like the guys that sold direct customers like, yeah, one of the customers asked me a question yesterday and I'm like, I just deleted his order out. And I'm like, and I go, man, it's great. And you're in a bull market. You're going to punish the customers and they're going to punish you back later. It's how it works, right? In a seller's market, the buyers suck it. In a buyer's market, the sellers suck it. It all goes in circles. That's what I've kind of noticed. Right now, it's the buyer's market. It's not the seller's market. It'll kind of go that way. So, like I said, I hate to hear any companies are doing bad, but a lot of them I can't say I'm shocked. Earthquaker, I have no input on. I've never worked with them. I think I played one Earthquaker pedal that was on a pedal board that Sweetwater sent for that pedal board. They did the world's biggest pedal board contest thing, but I don't think I've ever actually played one of his pedals. I hear nothing but good things, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so we'll see. But I'll keep tabs on that. I would really hate to see that they go away. I hear it, like I said, I hate to see your quality products go away. Okay. Hold on. Okay. What are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing good on time. Okay, so I can hit another subject. Let me grab one of the things Amanda sent to me. She sent me this from Scott. Says, hey, Phil, what are your thoughts on the high-pass filter switches on the PRS Custom 2408s? John McLaughlin style switches instead of a coil split. They're fine to me. I really kind of like a lot of stuff like that. I think about it's just my ears versus anything else. I don't really need to know. I don't have a specific way I like things done. To me, if I play it and it sounds great and I hit a switch and it's like giving me a tone I like, I'm good with it and I just go with it. So there's no particular thing like that. Just like coil split versus coil tap versus all that stuff. There's no specific thing I like over the others. So, that's that. I don't know. I think part of the thing is when I do the deep dives, and it's a fair assessment. So I obviously I own it because I've created the problem. So for myself, and that's fine, which is the deep dive concept is that you can't touch this guitar and I'm acting like a surrogate for you. In other words, I'm going to show you this instrument and I'm going to show you as many details about it in every good and bad way there is so that you can have as much information. I'm giving you information that I want if I was going to buy something. But necessarily when I'm touching it and playing it, I don't need to know half that stuff. Because I'm like, I pick it up and I go, it plays good. That's all I needed to know. But if I can't touch it, then I want to know, like, what are the components? What are they using, right? Because you're just making assessments of the quality. But yeah, when it comes to switches like that, I don't care which one how they do it. Michael says, hey, is it safe to put 9s on a PRS Custom 24? Sure, of course. Originally, PRS would put 9s on the Custom 24s and 10s on the Custom 22s. I think that's the way I remember it. What's funny is I was going through some old paperwork a few months ago of the store, and I was looking at PRS order forms. And it just, at first, I gasped when I saw it. I was like, wow, I forgot when we ordered PRSs, all the options you used to get to do. So, like, think about this. Think about, like, 2006, 2007, when I ordered a PRS, like, let's say a custom 24 PRS, on the form, when we ordered it as a dealer, it would be like, oh, do you want a wide thin or a pattern thin neck? So, in other words, a thin neck or a thick neck, you get to choose. And then it would say, do you want a rotary 5-way switch or a 3-way toggle switch or a blade switch, right? And I was like, oh, right? So it was all these options. On the Custom 22, it's like, do you want hardtail or do you want tremolo? Do you want rotary switch, 3-way switch, or blade switch? Do you want thin neck or thicker neck? And do you want dots, moons? In other words, because they do moons, but it was like the dots, or do you want birds? These were all the choices they gave you to make the guitars when you were building out the guitar. And then you got to choose the type of pickups that went in them. And that's just how you built PRSs as a dealer. Customer could order any of that stuff. That wasn't custom shop. That was just how we did it. And then now when you look and they go, okay, now the custom 24 comes with a pattern thin and the custom 22 comes with a pattern regular. And that's just how things are now. It's kind of weird how they streamlined it, which is where I think every company eventually goes. They streamline it because the more options they have, the more things to mess up, the more things to slow down. It's just how it goes. Streamline the process. Okay. Yeah, Sean says, I feel like those options are still there just in set models. That's exactly how it works, Sean. It's, private stock, you can get whatever you want. But yeah, they decided to streamline it into set models. So, and again, just to speed up the process of building and make things easier. It was a lot. One of the other reasons too was it made it really tough to have the right guitar in stock for a customer. So a customer come in and go, hey, I saw you're a PRS dealer. I'm looking for a custom 24. And I go, okay, there's 6 on the wall. Now, again, our store, we carry like 6 or 7 of any one SKU like that, max. And they go, cool, I'm looking for the green one. I'm like, I got it. And then they go, with the thicker neck. I'm like, oh, I don't have that one. So you always didn't have what they wanted. So it was a lot easier once they streamlined the process a little bit. So that's another reason why I think they did it too, just to keep things a little bit, easier for everybody, dealers, them. Let's do this one. This one's from Amanda. It says, hey, this is from, a regular star, but Amanda sent it to me. Thank you, Amanda. Says, hey, Phil, I recently bought a nut lubricant. Oh, that's that. We did his. Okay. Okay, let's do this one. Oh, that's funny. I have no idea. This is crazy. Okay, so I'm going to answer it. Why not? So Amanda sent me this one from Trisha. It says, it's Trisha Johnson. Art with Trisha says, Phil, last week you mentioned eating mashed potatoes. I did? And not liking gravy. Holy crap. I talk about anything. I'm just filling time, Trisha. It's 2 hours. I gotta fill the time up with something. All right. Anyways, it says, I know this was an example, but in our house, it sparked a debate. Can you clarify position mash with or without a gravy? Yeah. So my official position on this is actually controversial in my home as well. It's controversial with my wife's family even. So my wife's family is Southern. Now, my family on my side is, I guess you would say, one generation's removed Southern. Does that make sense? So like my grandparents were Southern, right, from the South, but my parents were from like California, right, because their grandparents moved to California, and that's okay. So, but Shauna's side of the family is all Southern. This is a big deal because like they like gravy on things. It's biscuits and gravy. That's like a thing, right? And white gravy. The first time it ever happened, I guess they didn't know anything. We didn't know. I'd like to point out, 10 years. Like I probably knew them for 10 years. And Shauna's mother asked me one time, do I want brown gravy or white gravy on something? And I said, I don't eat gravy. And she goes, you don't eat gravy? And I go, no. She goes, oh, well, I'll make you biscuits and gravy with sausage. And I'm like, yeah, I don't eat gravy. And she goes, why? And I go, this is honest to God, this is true. I go, I don't eat things that are not foods. So for instance, I don't eat Kool-Aid. I don't drink Kool-Aid ever. The first time somebody offered me Kool-Aid, do you want like red Kool-Aid or do you want I don't know what the other Kool-Aid colors are. Is there blue Kool-Aid? Whatever it is. I was like, what the hell is red? And they're like, oh, it's like cherries or strawberries. Like, you don't even know. It's a color. I don't drink a color. That's crazy. So when I told Shauna's mom, I go, brown gravy, white gravy, what does that even mean? I go, and then she said, it's not a big deal. And I go, if you said, what kind of meat do you want? Right? What color? I'd be like, what do you mean what color meat? I want either beef or I want chicken or pork. I literally want... so I don't eat gravy. That's what the answer is. That her mother tried a couple times. They had me taste it. It was fine, and I was fine. It was fine, whatever it is. But I don't eat it. I did it that time to make everybody happy. It's not my thing. Nothing against it. So mashed potatoes for me. I just put pepper on them. That's how that works. So yeah, gravy is. I don't eat things that are named after colors. Or that somebody can't explain to me very easily what it is. And then you can imagine how well that process of thinking was problematic for me when I had to go visit some of her family in Louisiana. I did not do well in Louisiana when it came to food. especially the rural areas. Some of the food. What I mean by that is not because they didn't have names for it. It's just they couldn't really articulate very well what was in it exactly. They would give me like, well, it's got all these things. And I go, well, which ones are they? Okay, that's Teledriver says plums, that's a color. Sure, of course, we could argue orange is a color, but here's the thing. An orange is you get where I'm going. There's no fruit called purple or red. So I understand. Like, I think the fruit is a plum, and we'll call a color a plum, right? We'll call a color an orange. But like, we don't call bananas yellow. And again, I don't really care anymore. I'm just telling you, she was just asking a question about gravy. I don't eat gravy, and that's why, and it was presented to me. My mother did not eat any of that stuff. So, any of that stuff. So that's, it was not presented to me as a child. Okay. Sean Brooks says, hey, Phil, did you see the giant price jump in the Tonemaster amps? Also, I see used Bassman reissues going for cheaper than used Tonemaster Bassmans. Okay, so let's compartmentalize that, Sean. First, I agree with you. That's why I didn't buy the Bassman Tonemaster. I can buy a real Bassman for less than the Bassman Tonemaster, and that is just crazy to me to think about. I did not see the price jump. We'll look right now. I did, however, this week buy guitar strings and went, what the hell happened there? So, and this is a good subject to talk about. I just want to clarify. I'm going to share with you guys right now. So I'm on Sweetwater. Let's see what Sweetwater's doing. Oh, so the Twin Reverb's $12.99. So what was that before? Tonemaster Deluxe Reverb is $12.49. Yeah, I feel like these are up. Weren't they originally $900? So it could be the tariffs because the stuff's coming from China. It could be just Fender. Here's my thing about this. And this is where, you always run the risk of politics and pissing people off. And it's not, I don't talk about politics because I don't want to piss anybody off. I piss people off every week. It's just, I don't know anything about politics. It's not something I'm super interested in. I generally get a gist of what's going on in the world and then I don't really want to speak to it in the idea that you might think I'm an authority of the subject. However, that being said, what I will tell you is that it seems like, to me, it just seems that, like just with COVID and stuff and the cost increase and stuff, it seems like certain companies sure know how to go run right fast to the price increases, right? Like, I look back now at the guitar boom era during COVID, and you can see which companies were the first to raise prices and the most to raise prices. They just were right on it. Fender was definitely one of those ones. So I'm not here to villainize them per se, but just, it doesn't shock me that, they're the first ones to throw the price hikes out. If it's what it's connected to or not, it just seems like literally it's the first. It's always the same damn companies throwing out the price increase. So here's the price increase I saw that was crazy. Tell me what you guys think about this. So I want to go back a second because this is something I talked to the patrons about, and they had an interesting reaction. So I'd like to know your guys' reaction. And maybe, let's see. Hold on a second. I'm going to do start a poll, if you don't mind, so that way we can know. Hold on a second. Oh, well, let me do all this? Oh, cool. Okay. So I'm going to put out a poll right now. Maybe. Okay, there's that. Let's see what happens if I do that. I don't want to add an option. I just want to start the poll. Is it too many words? Oh, there it is. Nope, I still can't do it. Okay, I apologize. I should have thought of doing this ahead of time. It won't let me do the poll. I don't understand. Create a poll. Huh. Yeah, I did that. Hold on, cut that out. Let's try this again. If it doesn't work, I'll move on, guys. Hate to kill the show over this. Ask a question. Oh, and it won't let me copy paste? Oh, it does. There it is. Okay, so let me tell you what happened. So I don't know if it's going to let me start the poll. I apologize. Oh, there it is. Okay, so a couple months ago, I've been using D'Addario strings for as long as I can remember. And a couple months ago, I was playing a guitar and the high E string on my D'Addario strings broke. And I thought, oh, that's weird. I haven't broke a string in like years. Couple days later, I'm playing another guitar, D'Addario strings, string breaks. I'm like, wow, this is weird. Must have got a bad pack. So I don't have any singles, so I literally go out and buy some more packs of D'Addario strings. I order them from Sweetwater. I get them. I'm putting them in on another guitar, and I'm filming a video, and it literally the string breaks. Now I know what you're thinking. Not the same guitar, different guitars. Was it break? I didn't take notice if it broke from the bridge of this tuning key. I feel like it was always breaking from the tuning key, but it could have been from the bridge. And I just feel like, what is going on here? So again, I thought it was a bad batch. A couple weeks go by, I bought some D'Addario strings from Guitar Center, and I put them on a guitar, and that was like the fourth string I broke. And I'm like, I'm not kidding, guys, I have not broke a guitar string in a decade. And now I broke like 4 in a period of like, 3 months. So I thought that was really weird. So I went ahead and I bought a bunch of Ernie Ball strings. So I just ordered a bunch. I ordered them in the 12s, 12 at a time, 12 packs at a time. And what gauge? Depends on the guitar. So it's all gauges because I do 9 to 42s, 9 to 46s, and 10 to 46, depending on the guitars. I don't remember the gauge. Just remember it's different packs from different suppliers. Could have been from the same batches of D'Addario. But here's the weird part. So I buy the Ernie Balls, I put them on the guitars, no problem now. So I've been playing Ernie Balls for the last 2 months, almost all my guitars. I keep buying them. And so like this, talking to friends, a couple of my friends go, yeah, that happened to me recently too. D'Addario. I had a couple strings break. And I'm like, what? I'm talking to my patrons on a Zoom call, hangout. Couple of them, like 2 or 3 of them, like same thing. Wow, yeah, happened to me. Now again, that's not a lot of people. It's like 5 people total. 5 people have had this problem that I know, combined, including myself. But I was like, this is weird. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll have a situation where I ask you guys, so I put it on the poll. You guys tell me if you've noticed that the quality of D'Addario strings have gone down or changed. I'm just curious. But look what happened to me. So I had to buy some strings this week, and I think I had a shock. Okay, ready? $7.90. I was like, is that the 7-string pack? $7.99 for a pack of Ernie Ball strings? Like, holy crap. So I bought the 10, the 12. I bought the 12. That's weird. They have the singles, but I bought the 12 packs of them. So 12 packs made it $583. And interesting enough, when I bought these, the hybrids, they didn't have 12 packs, but I bought 2 5-packs. That brought the price down to $5.99. So I don't know how out of touch I'm being right now, but I was like, I really remember just buying. Actually, you know what? I don't have to remember. Let me look. You guys just gave me a great idea. I can literally look in my account because I buy them from Guitar Center. I buy them from Sweetwater. Because of the my affiliates, links, I get strings cheaper from Guitar Center than Sweetwater, but Sweetwater gets them to me faster. So it depends if I need them fast or not. If I need them fast, I go to Sweetwater. If I don't need them fast, but okay, hold on a second. Do this. Come on, Sweetwater, stop messing with me. Let me in my account. Okay, let's open up the account and see what I paid. Order history for the last time I bought Ernie Ball strings and how long ago that was. I would have swore they were $4.99 a pack last time I bought them. So looks like I bought them in bulk packs too then. I don't buy singles. So I'm opening up, hold on. So I bought Ernie Ball strings in January 23rd. So since then I must have bought them from Guitar Center. January 23rd. And according to this, I paid $4.99 a pack. So let me go back to you guys. So I feel like $7.99 is a big jump from $4.99. Yeah, Wisconsin Jet says $4.99 a pack sounds right. I would have swore $4.99 is what I just paid. So, I mean, I was in January, but I bought some since then too. And so when I saw $7.99, I was like, that's a pretty big jump in string prices. So, Matthew says, what is string joy so high? Why? I think he means why. Why is string joy so highly regarded? I use string joy as well. String joy is a lot more expensive, but I like them. And I've said this before. I like the guys at String Joy. They're really cool guys. They're basically a mom and pop. In other words, they're a owner operated business, and they make a good quality product. And they, it's a support, not a local business because they're in Tennessee and I'm in Arizona, but you get the idea. So supporting a small business is where I try to support them, and I like them. So I will buy them too. It depends. I buy custom packs from them because there's certain things I want. So certain things I'll buy from them for custom packs. But let's look at the poll. The poll says no. So 56% say no. I'm going to end the poll that the quality has not gone down. So I don't know. Maybe it's just like a bad thing. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to read a super chat. I saw it, and it's going to tie into the guitar of the week and then also in issues. So this came from, who did it come from? This came from Litvey. Litvey says, hey, new guitar day, 24 fret PRS shaped amber gold Aria ARCST with a Les Paul style bridge. In my teens, I had a green one with a tremolo. Never seen a photo of the green one. Nostalgia hit hard, overpaid, but okay. So, what's funny is, with Litvey, congratulations on your guitar and overpaying on it. I did the same thing. I bought a green Aria. No, I'm just kidding. No, I did a nostalgia buy guitar. So I don't know why I did this. I just did this. So guitar of the week today is a twofold to share the guitar with you. So I'm going to start with all the good. We'll end with the bad. There is some bad, but we'll get into that. So what is today's guitar of the week? It's a Kiesel. No, it's a Washburn. So here's the guitar that I just idolized and wanted. I used to own one, but a different version of this. And I don't know, got it in my head to get this. I'll tell you the whole story, how I bought it, what happened, and what's wrong with it. There's something wrong with it. So what is it? It is a Washburn Nuno Betancourt Paduke. That's right, like the Duke. It's Paduke. Solid body guitar, two-piece body of Paduke with a two-piece neck. There's a scarf joint right there. It looks like a little frowny face with two eyeballs. And the Bill Lawrence pickup in the bridge. Funny, we were just talking about this guitar. And a Seymour Duncan 59, three-way switch, one volume knob. This is the Floyd Rose 1000. And that's it. Ebony fretboard, 22 nickel silver jumbo frets, I believe, with the Stevens cutaway, which I think is probably the best handshake thing that there ever was. I mean, look at that. So great. So I don't know why. I just needed a Nuno guitar. I have the Swirl Nuno guitar, and I was like, I need this guitar back in my life. I want the Paduke one. I got it in my head. I was listening to 3 sides of every story and how I needed a Paduke one, and I went and looked, and that's what this guitar had interesting. So I'm out there looking. There's some used ones. There's some new ones. Most of the new ones are pre-orders. They don't make very many N4s. We talked about this. Or maybe I was talking to my patrons about this. But so they make about 250 currently USA production N4s a year out of the shop that Chris makes the guitars for, Washburn. Now, I'll demo the guitar. We'll do the fun part. And then I'll ask you guys some opinions on some issues. Okay, so let's switch camera sides. Here we go. So let's situate myself. We have the guitar. I'm running through my, what am I running through? I'm running through, I didn't even look. Oh, funny enough, I'm running through my Engel Steve Morris amp. So into a 112 cab with a creamback selection and mic'd up. And a delay, which is the NuX delay. Somebody was just asking me a question I didn't get to, but I'll say it now. Somebody asked me if I really like the NuX delay and if I still have it. I still have it. Still love it. Use it all the time. So let's demo the guitar. Side camera. Right now I'm like, how far can I play this without a copyright strike? Hold on, I switched on the amp. All right, let's try to play this with no copyright strike. Okay, here's the neck pickup. Okay, so that's the guitar. Let's talk about what happened. So I need to do a little, if you don't mind. I was not prepared. In fact, this guitar got here today. So I wasn't planning on this to be the guitar of the week, but it is. So let me go ahead and do this, send this. And once, interesting, sending. Okay, so what I want to do is talk about two things. So this guitar, and I want to tell you the story because I want your input on this. Interesting thing happened with the guitar. So I was online looking at the N4 Padukes. These are usually very heavy guitars. Some of these can be 10 pounds, 12 pounds because the wood is very heavy. This one was listed at 8 pounds. It came in at about 8 pounds, 2 ounces, so it wasn't too far off when they said, which is fine. There was a dealer that had the guitar on sale for 10% off. So I was like, okay, 10% off on Reverb. I actually messaged them straight to their website and said, hey, just so you know, I bought guitars from you before. And, if I buy direct, you don't have to pay fees. And it was good for me because I don't have to pay sales tax. And they said, look, no matter what, you got to pay fees. So they said, just buy it on Reverb. So I bought it on Reverb. They got it out pretty fast. It was a holiday weekend, so it took a couple days, but they got it out. The guitar shows up, it was double boxed, and it was packaged very well. However, this is what happened. So let me share this, maybe. And I don't know if it's going to screen share with you, so we'll see. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Oh, there it is. So guitar came, no big deal, strings broken, right? Okay. So I go, okay, the strings broke, so your G strings broke. And then this happened. I look and the pickup is fallen inside the cavity. Okay, so here's my assessment. Looking at the box, it got hit, in shipping. The box got dropped or whatever it was, and the guitar got hit hard enough that the string snapped, which it does, and the pickup fell through. Now, after going assessing it, here's what I learned. First of all, their amazing packing job saved the guitar. Good for them. The string, you just loosen it up, and I clamped it back in the bridge. But the problem with the bridge was that the builder of the guitars, the Washburn guys who built this guitar, they used the wrong screws for this pickup. This pickup is a Seymour Duncan 59 with long legs, and they used the short screws. And so I had to take the short screws out and put long screws in because that's why it fell through. The screws are just too short. All right, it's just better to use the long screws with long legs. So no big deal. A few minutes, it took me about 10 minutes to assess everything, go through everything. The guitar was set up well, everything's good. And then I noticed this problem. Now, this guitar is rather expensive. On sale, I got this guitar for $2,300, not including shipping and tax. So let's, this guitar is normally like $2,700 made in USA. So when I was looking at within a minute of playing it, I noticed this problem, which is if you look here at the neck, you'll see the Floyd Rose nut is sticking out. Look how far it's sticking out. It's sticking out on this side and sticking out a little on this side, see? Right? So a little bit there, a lot of it there. Look at that. I mean, that's pretty dramatic. Right? So I go, okay, that's an issue. Now, here's my problem. I love the guitar. It plays great. It sounds great. I'm happy. And that issue doesn't seem to affect the way it plays. I'm sure if you played some kind of weird chord up here, maybe it's poking out and it'll stab you a little bit, but it doesn't seem to affect me. And I don't want to send the guitar back because there's really not a whole lot available right now. And really all they can do is either give me a full refund or send me a replacement, which could take some time. And what happens if I get the replacement I don't like as much? So I was thinking about this going, well, maybe I should do Guitar of the Week because I have it. And then also discuss with you guys, how do you handle a situation like this? I mean, think about this. The dealer gave me a discount, right? Well, I didn't ask for it, but they gave it, which was nice. They gave good service. They shipped the guitar in a timely manner. They packed the guitar very well. And the guitar arrived with the issues, the issue of the pickup falling in because of the wrong screws and the nut sticking out. Well, that was the manufacturer's fault. But in my opinion, the retailer should have caught the issue with the nut. That is definitely an issue. And I don't plan to get rid of this guitar because I already had one a long time ago. I regretted getting rid of it. And so this is a really not only a nostalgia play for me, but it's just I really, really, really want it. Somebody says wrong nut. I don't think it's the wrong nut. It could be, but it looks to me, just looking at it and all the thousands of guitars I've gone through, it looks like somebody, when they sanded this, they got a little aggressive with the sanding and they sanded it down. And then that could be a problem because that could be what I like about it, the neck. Maybe it's a little thinner than it should be around here. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to reach out to them, probably not after the show, but tomorrow, and I'm going to tell them, the dealer, thank you for the great price, the good service, the excellent shipping. However, this was missed, and I want them to reach out to Washburn and let them know that they have an issue. Especially since the builder, Chris, is a really accomplished builder. Maybe there's a couple out that are out like this and somebody else is going to have this problem, issue. And I'm going to ask that maybe they ask Washburn to see if they'll give me a 10% discount from the Washburn side. I don't want the dealer to give me more discounts. Although the dealer should have caught that, the reality is I can send the guitar back at a full refund and the dealer can, go on his way and disclose that, But here's what I think is going to happen. Because I was a Washburn dealer. I sold these guitars too, so I can tell you. Here's what I think is going to happen. They get the guitar back, and either I don't think they're going to do this, but if they're not reputable, they'll just relaunch, sell it as it is, and not say anything. They could disclose it and then have to discount it, and then they could reach out to Washburn and say, "Hey, give us a discount because it's a B stock item now, basically." Or they could send it back and get a different one exchanged. Those are all their options. I think a fair way to do this is, and I'm taking a risk because I'm telling you guys this because I thought this would be interesting. I'll give you guys an update next week or the week after whatever happens. And I'm taking a risk because there's probably not a good chance. There's a small chance that Washburn or the dealer is watching this podcast or sees this podcast after. So I'm telling you guys what I'm going to do, which means they're going to know what I'm going to do, which is I'm going to say, hey, why don't you give me 10% off from the manufacturer? In other words, I don't want the dealer to eat it. I want the manufacturer to pay it to the dealer and the dealer can pay it to me. And we'll all be happy and we'll all move on our way. And if basically they say no, I'll just keep the guitar. So I don't want to return it and I don't need to go through that stuff. And they don't have to go through anything. So yeah, it's and I didn't tell you the name of the dealer because I figure I'll save that till later to see how it all ends. But I thought about, I could make a deep dive video and do all this stuff. And I was like, I could do this. But I go, instead, I really want to do this differently this time. Just tell you guys, look, this is the problem. And I think I have a reasonable answer. In other words, a reasonable request. I think, let's make everybody's life a little easier. The manufacturer can eat a little bit of their profit. And that way the dealer's already eaten some profit on this. By between the reverb fees and the discount, the dealer did not make very much money on this guitar. I can tell you right now. I mean, they made money, but not a lot. So, no, it wasn't well. So you guys know, it's not a really known dealer. You guys, you could put out 500 guesses and you wouldn't even get it. So when I was on their website, again, this isn't a major dealer. This is the one that had it. And also keep in mind, you know, this was one of the only dealers that listed the guitar with the weight. Every other dealer didn't have the Padukes with the weight. And I had to email each store going, hey, could you tell me how much this guitar weighs? I want to buy this guitar. And one company made me laugh. They sent me an email 2 weeks later. I'm not exaggerating. It might have been 2.5 weeks later saying, well, this is a pre-order guitar, which I didn't see that in their listing. And it said, they're probably 9 pounds. I was like, well, thanks, one, for the late reply. Two, that's not even the right weight. And three, you don't have the guitar. So I just thought it was easy. But hey, we got to see the guitar. It's still New Guitar Day. I'm still very excited. I don't mind the issue. I just, like I said, I just love Nuno so much. You know, this guitar is just iconic to me. The Paduk. If you don't know anything about Paduk, what's cool about the wood is it's well, originally, if you get it from Africa, it's really dark. This isn't from Africa, but it's really orangish color and red. And over time, it gets darker and darker and darker and darker. So as oxygen gets to the wood, it just gets darker. Did it have a case? Yeah, it has a full Washburn case. So, yeah. Somebody says, Horsehead says, more than turds. Yeah. Do you think you could fix the issue? No, because here's the problem. You have two choices. Your choice, I mean, obviously you can't build up the wood. You can't put wood back, which is why I was cautious with you guys, telling you guys, you know, when you remove material, you can't put it back. Could you get a more narrow nut? Probably there might be one out there, but my problem is that again, this is the spacing. This is what I like. I would not want to mess with it. I'm fine with it. And this side actually doesn't look that bad. It's a little bit over on this side, like I showed you guys, but this side is the one that's really whack. Look, you can see probably the shininess from here. It's so weirdly, see, look at that. See how you can see the silver? You should not be able to see this nut at all. And you guys can see the silver on both sides. See that? Crazy. So, but I don't know. I like everything else about it. So we'll see. We'll see how it gets resolved. I don't know. You know, it really, what it comes down to is it really comes down to what we see over and over again, which is it's really getting hard, apparently, for companies to make a good guitar and send it to you at any price. I mean, it doesn't seem to be, and this is where I like to share this stuff with you guys. You know, I see people going, hey, I bought a guitar for $300 and it has issues. I'm like, you buy $3,000 guitars, they come with issues. It seems like you can't shake it. So Jeremy says, you should have bought a Kyber. There's no way I would buy a Kyber. Just kidding. Hold on a second. I have a Kyber here, by the way. Where is it? Is it in this room? It is not. That's funny. Where is it at? I'm not kidding. I would show you the Kyber, but it's not here. It's not in the racks. I have no idea where we put it. We have a deep dive of the Kyber coming. Oh, I know where it's at. Hold on a second. Okay. I made a short little video for Jeff Kiesel, and I sent it to him. He responded, and he said, so rad. I found something weird about the Kybers. Kyber guitars. So if you okay, let's go. We'll get into the subject, but I'll button this up. If you guys didn't hear, Kiesel came out with a new kind of guitar. It's a new model for them, and it's lighter, and it plays a little easier, and it's a little bit different design. They call it Kyber because Jeff Kiesel's a huge Star Wars fan. It's Kyber crystals, like from what they put in lightsabers. And they sent me one. And they asked me to do an unboxing and send them the unboxing reaction because that was just, hey, for them. They wanted to see what I thought of it. I made the unboxing reaction. I put it, so you guys, if any of you are curious, it's on my Patreon and it's free. So it's free Patreon. So if you want to join Patreon and support the podcast for $5, great. I appreciate that. Hold on one second. We had technical difficulties. 415 episodes, which I don't know how many years that is. I've never had anybody knock on the door while I'm doing the show, and the door just knocked, and I literally probably just had a heart attack. I was like, why is somebody knocking on my door? So the reason somebody was knocking on my door was somebody handed me a Kyber guitar. I'll say so. Shauna, she handed me a Kyber guitar. This is the new Kiesel Kyber guitar. I am going to do something for you guys. This is how much I love you, because I am screwing myself because I've only shown Jeff Kiesel this. Okay? So Kiesel Guitar sent out the Kyber. The Kyber is a new model from Kiesel. It's a little bit more ergonomic. It's a smaller body. It's thinner. It's a thinner guitar body. And it has a base price of $1,550. Keeping in mind, this guitar is probably $2,200 because of, think of this, these little bevels right here, this little bevel right here, not this arm carve, this little bevel right here is a $200 add-on. So I don't even like the bevels. They're fine. I mean, they're fine. Like, for $200, I would not get the bevels. But they sent this to me, obviously, to reaction. This has a maple fretboard with a roasted maple neck. It's an alder body, lock and keys, a truss rod delete. But you can get this guitar with a hardtail, hipshot hardtail, and I think a non-roasted neck, and you'd be like $1,600 made in the USA with a gig bag, a deluxe gig bag. Comes with a 3-way switch and a push-pull coil split, 1 volume knob. This guitar weighs 6 pounds. In fact, they guarantee that all of them will weigh about 6 pounds. But they didn't even know this. They put the strap buttons in back, and he designed the guitar to be super balanced, which is why the headstock looks like this. They actually removed headstock material to make the guitar balance really well and keep the guitar super light and playable. And funny that Susan says kind of vibes like a Parker, because this is what I'm going to show you. I showed it to Jeff Kiesel literally 30 minutes before the show. That. Yep. It balances perfectly like a Parker guitar. In fact, you can do it with your pinky. Whoa! No, just kidding. This is my pinky. I don't have a strong pinky. I don't want a pinky. So it's perfectly balanced and plays and sounds amazing. But I'm not going to show you on the Guitar of the Week because I'm doing a deep dive. So I figured a new guitar like this needs a deep dive. I don't think it's a custom color. I'm pretty sure that's tropical. The color is tropical, and it's a satin finish. So Donald says, I see Ormsby in the headstock. Look, they talked about this. It's basically like Mayonnaise, Ormsby. They're going after the more... Look, when I go on Instagram, like some of you do, somebody said the weight. My knees hurt. This guitar is like 6 pounds, like 6 ounces. Maybe 6 pounds, 8 ounces, something like that. When I see young players playing all that, the Ned Flanders diddle do stuff, this is what they look like they're playing. Stuff like this, guitars like this, very modern, very, kind of sleek. And so obviously Kiesel's going, hey, we can make a guitar like that. So that's what this is going after. So very, very cool. It's got the new neck joint. So, and they decided to do it at a lower price at $1,550. And the way I explain it, and then we'll go on to the next subject. Pat says, way better deal than Washburn, isn't it? Thank you, Pat. As much as I love Nuno and as much as I love this guitar, just right. I have the Jason Becker. You could get the Jason Becker. I don't care what anybody says, is the same basic guitar as this. It's essentially an unfinished wood guitar with some Seymour Duncan pickups in it. And the Jason Becker would cost about $500 less than this minimum to $700 less. So yeah, but your heart wants what your heart wants, and my heart wanted a Nuno N4 in Paducah. But anyways, back to the Kiesel. 1550. If at 1550, this is the way I just want you to understand it. At 1550, you get the same gig bag. You get carbon fiber reinforced rods. You get stainless steel frets. You get Cortison necks. The necks are Cortison, and you get the same pickups. So if you want to spend more, it's just for looks. That's what I'm basically saying. It's like saying, hey, look, I'll sell you this truck for $30,000, but it comes with airbags and all the safety features and lane assist and all that stuff, and every safety feature you could ever want is in the truck and the engine, and it will tow. But if you want, heated seats and if you want a cool paint job and you want, power windows, that's more. That's how you look at that. So the reason I say that is because there's some confusion. People are like, it says $1,550, but it's like $2,300 or $2,900 by the time I get the one I like. Well, that's because you want heated seats and power windows. And hey, if you got the money, you deserve them. And if you don't have the money, finance it. That is a Ruthless People joke. For those that know that joke, who cares if it's the size of a Volkswagen Beetle and costs as much? When you're dead, they can bury you in it. And if you can't afford it, finance it. If anyone gets that quote, that is one of my favorite scenes of a movie of all time. So, I think they were the Dominator 3000 speakers. These are the Dominator 3000 speakers. But my favorite part is, check it out. Don't watch the movie Ruthless People. Just go on YouTube and type in Ruthless. You know what? I'll do the clip right now. I'll timestamp it right now. It's Judd. I think is that Judd Reinhold, right? Ruthless People speaker scene. Sure. Okay. Dominator MX. Yes. We can't watch it. I'm doing this right now. Okay, hold on. I can't play it. I'll get in trouble. It is 1 minute and 54 seconds long. I am doing this because I love you guys in the chat. You should be watching me because I'm so cool. And this is, but there's the clip, and I will literally timestamp it for those watch the replay. It is my favorite scene. It's a guy selling speakers, and my favorite line is, and I can't help it, is, if you can't afford it, effing finance it. It's great. All right. Danny DeVito. Yes, Chris. Unfreaking believable. Danny DeVito's in it. Crap. It's Danny DeVito and Bette Midler. So, all right. We have Nuno has a nut sprout. That's funny. Yes, we've seen fret sprout. We've never seen nut sprout. So, Derek Savage says, is it stainless steel frets, Phil? The Kiesel is. This is stainless steel frets. The Nuno would be nickel silver. So Kiesels come standard with stainless steel frets unless you took advantage of their discounted anniversary sale they did earlier that year, earlier this year. That's the only time I've ever seen that. But yeah, very cool. Balance, looks great, feels great. So really cool. It's cool to see people trying new things. Look, they said it was their best launch ever in their history as Kiesel as a company. So I'm glad to hear it. Like I said, out in the market right now, it seems like everybody's either killing it or they're getting killed by it. So, I like to see people doing well. Let's get back to guitar questions. Otherwise, we won't finish the show on time, and then you guys will be in trouble. I don't know why, but I just feel like somebody will be in trouble. Okay. We have Antique Rocker says, hey, what's your opinion on luthiers whose unique guitars are fine works of art? Example, Tracy Cox guitars. I like Tracy Cox guitars, by the way. Hanley's cigar box guitars. I'm not familiar with that. Languedoc. Well, Languedoc's on a different world of it on its own. Super expensive and very unique. What do I think of luthiers who make art type guitars? I think they're cool. It's just not my bag, as I've said. I'm more of a, look at this. Think of it this. If you want to I use all these examples like, I like Strats and I like paint. Just keep this in mind. One day, the people at Kiesel were like, we'll make you whatever you want. Now, keep in mind, they have like 7A flame tops and exotic woods and crazy everything and crazy paint jobs, and paint jobs with the crackle and paint jobs that, do all this stuff. And I was like, make me a Strat. You don't think deep down somewhere in Jeff Kiesel's brain, he's like, Phil McKnight could have anything I make, and he's like, I'll have a brown Strat. I mean, I know it's copper, but it's a brown Strat. It's just Strat. That's what I picked. You could make me anything. And I said, make me a Strat. That just tells you exactly what I think of all this stuff. So when it comes to the luthiers that make gorgeous instruments, like that. I think it's really cool. When I go to the NAMM show and I go down that one row where all the really amazing luthiers make these really amazing artistic guitars, I'm at awe, and I always take pictures of them and look at them, but it's just not like a daily player kind of thing for me, but very cool. And if you got the money for it, hell, dude, there's worse things you can do with your money. Absolutely. Say no to drugs, kids. Anyways, Randy says, hey, Phil, why do bass amp manufacturers put the controls on the top of the amp rather than the front? Well, because bass players are tall. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. They do. I mean, Ampeg will put stuff on the front. Well, not now so much now, but SVTs are on the front. I don't think it's necessarily guitar amp manufacturers. There was actually a reason for it. I don't think bass amp manufacturers really look at it anything other than practicality. I guess the way you look at it is, if you're going to bend over, you put the knobs on the top, because that way you're looking down and you can see them. And if the rig is up tall, then you'd put them in the front. That's kind of the way I would think of it. But I don't think it's actually done for any specific reason other than maybe functionality, cost, and aesthetics, which are the three factors that they probably focus on. So if it costs a little less to put it that way, they'll probably do it. If it functions a little better, they might do it for that reason. That's it. I don't think there's any other really big play in that. Charles says, what are my thoughts on the Marshall Studio JTM and Studio Vintage amps? I've owned them all, and I've gotten rid of all of them. They are good amps. There's nothing wrong with them. They just didn't fit my needs, which is I wanted to have a Marshall sound at a more reasonable volume. And here's my thought was, if I'm going to run a 20 watt Marshall, because I didn't like the 20 watt vintage Marshall in the 5 watt mode. I didn't like any of them in the 5 watt mode. I thought the 5 watt mode was too thin. So if I'm running them 20 watt Marshall and I have to run it through an attenuator, I can just run a 50 watt or 100 watt Marshall through an attenuator. I don't necessarily need a smaller footprint for that. Once I have to add something to suck up the power to make it more reasonable at lower volumes, that's kind of my thought process on it. And that's it. So I like them. I prefer Friedman. That's just the reality of that. If you, I'll say this: if you're looking at the JCM 800 Studio or the Silver Jubilee, I would look at the Little Sister or the Dirty Shirley and the Pink Taco, even though the names are horribly stupid. Sorry. That or the Runt. Any of those, Jerry Cantrell, all those things, that's kind of my thought process. Are they super Marshally? No, but they're made in the USA and they're quality, and they're going to price out at about the same price. Friedman's about $300 more than the Marshall stuff right now, which is, especially with the used, because you can get stuff used. Todd 0864 says Runt or the Pink Taco. I prefer the Runt. I bought the Runt first. I did gear math. Gear math did not serve me. Gear math was, if it's good, more expensive is better. That's so I did the more expensive better. So I go, hey, what's better than a circuit board Runt is a hand wired Pink Taco, which at the time was called the PT20, but then they had to change the name back to Pink Taco. If you guys don't know the story of the Pink Taco, it's a kind of funny story. Dave Friedman has the sense of humor of a 12-year-old. I'm just saying that. This is my personal opinion. I respect him, obviously. I got nothing but great things. I think he's got an magical ear, and I think he's a talented person, and I think he makes amazing amps. But his amp names just tell me he's got the mental jokes of a 12-year-old. So the brown eye, the Pink Taco, right? I mean, it's just so horrible. So anyways, the PT, it was called the Pink Taco, and then they got a deal for Sweetwater to carry them. Sweetwater at that time would not carry the amp because it was offensive, because Sweetwater, Chuck Surak, the owner of Sweetwater, is religious. Hey, there's no shame in that. Everybody's got their thing. And so he had his principles, and that was his principles. He's like, I'm not going to carry the amp. So Friedman, because they're smart, because he's the big buyer, they changed the name to the PT20. And then what happened was Pete Thorne came out with an amp, and that's called the PT20. So Sir asked them if they would, if they could use the name PT20, and then Friedman let Sir used the name PT20 and then put the name back to the Pink Taco, and Chuck Sirac's not running Sweetwater anymore, and I guess Sweetwater doesn't care, so now they carry the Pink Taco. That is your quick history lesson of why the name was the. So if you go out there, and so the reason I'm telling you that is if you go on Reverb right now, you can find Friedman amps called the PT20 and ones that are called the Pink Taco. You can find both versions. So back to your original question, the Runt. I would pick the Runt. Actually, so you know, the Jerry Cantrell is the best amp they ever did out of those amps. Here's why. The Jerry Cantrell amp is the Runt with more gain. It is the exact same amp. They use the exact same platform. It's the same clean channel. Nothing is different. In fact, I'm not even sure that the Jerry Cantrell amp is the Runt with more gain, or it is the Runt without being restricted. Right? In other words, like the Runt could have more gain and maybe they're cutting it back. And then when they did the Jerry Cantrell, they let it open up a little bit more. I don't know. My guess is, maybe, but probably it just has more gain. So if you get the Jerry Cantrell, you get the Runt, but you get more gain and you can back the gain back off. You have more, so think of it like, it's like a V6 versus a 4-banger. It's like if you get the Jerry Cantrell, you can go a little faster. You can get a little bit more gain, or you can slow back down. Just because the engine goes faster doesn't mean you have to go fast. You can turn gain down. So the JJ Jr. is, in my opinion, the best one they put out. There, some people like the Jakey Lee. That's a great amp too. They're all great, but like if you want a good Friedman amp, I would look at the JJ Jr. for sure. And then Brian says they'll probably discontinue it because he's moved to Bogner. That probably, right? I could see that doing that. They might discontinue it, but they might just reissue a Runt Plus. Right, and give you something a little bit more. I now have the small box, and the small box is great, but again, I should have just kept the Runt. This is good. So my only complaint about the Runt, I only have one, is that in the clean mode, it only has 2 controls. So you have a volume control. It has 3. In the clean section of the Runt, if you're not familiar with the amp, which I did a review, so you can watch my review, I talk about this. It has a volume knob. It has no 3-band EQ. That's only for the gain side. And it has a little switch that lets you go like bright, super bright, or a little dark. It's really like, I'm unhappy with every switch. But also the presence control, because that's assigned to the power section, works on the clean channel as well. So you can use the presence control, but it affects both clean and dirty. So those are some suggestions for that. Or you can always just, get the studio. If you get the Studio Marshall, if you get a good pedal in front of it, I think you'd be fine too. I would have kept it, out of all the Marshall studio amps, I would have kept the Plexi vintage Plexi style amp and run a pedal, but I have a 2061, which is a hand-wired version of that. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you the hand-wired version's better. I couldn't really decipher a real big difference between the two. As a whole, maybe I give the edge to the hand-wired amp, but they don't make the hand-wired amp anymore, and it's unique. So I might as well keep the unique one than the mass-produced one. No other thought put into that than that, why I did it. Johnny says, hey, I just want... Oh, thank you for the super chat, by the way. That was a large one. Thank you. Johnny says, I just want to show my support. Thank you. I remember watching you being happy about hitting 100 episodes, still going strong. Thanks. Yeah, it's funny. It's like, because it's the internet, they don't cancel your show. So my show could have got canceled. No, actually, what's great about 415 episodes? I could sit here and go, man, we made 415 episodes, and maybe and the reality is I can make 1,000 episodes because I just put them on the internet, and if no one watches them, who cares? And if somebody watches them, who cares? I guess, right? Like I can make them. But what I'm super proud of, and I really am, is 415 episodes, and they've been funded by Patreon this whole time, and still funded by Patreon. My Patreon, that's crazy to me. I mean, it's the equivalent of saying like, well, it's better. It's better than even saying like, hey, this show is sponsored by this, this company and has been with me from the very first episode. And wow, I'm still have the same sponsor and they've supported me this whole way. That would be impressive, but not nearly as impressive as, hey, my sponsor are people who elected to just sponsor this, even though they don't have to. Thank you so much. This is just patrons and members. Thank you so much. So I don't know why you do it. I appreciate that you do it. I appreciate all of you actually supporting the channel, watching all this stuff too. But it's crazy to think all these years, people still, It's crazy. It's crazy. So, yeah. So and thank you for supporting it. And 100 episodes. Yeah, it's crazy. It's the whole thing's, I'd say surreal, but it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense when I try to say it out loud to people. Aaron Short Music from the Aaron Short Music channel says, new Stratocasters rarely stay in tune on arrival. Do I need to have a nut filed, or will lubricant suffice with S, not a V? Suffice. And which brand do you suggest? Okay, so the way I look at it this way. Lubricant, whether you're using the Big Ben's nut sauce, lubricant, all the other stuff, Vaseline, or a pencil. It is just a Band-Aid for the problem. It's not going to fix the problem. Okay. It's just going to, it's like literally like, using a jump starter to jumpstart your car real quick. Your car still has a dead battery. Okay. Or, if your battery's dead, you still have a bad battery. Your just car started now. And so you need to go get a new battery. So if you have a nut and you get a good Strat and you're having issues, the reason why I lubricate the nut slots is to see if it fixes it. If it fixes it, it just tells me that now we need to polish out the nut slots. If it doesn't fix it, it tells me that I have a bigger problem. See, and that's how. So it's a quick fix, but it's also a quick test. So that's why it's nice to do something like that. It's going to help you. So Aaron, that's what I would recommend. As you get a new guitar, you really need to do a setup. That's why when I do the unboxings, Aaron actually had this great question a while back, and Aaron, you probably remember asking me this. Sorry, you said, because in the deep dives, I just play the guitars as they are. I pull them out of the box and I assess the setup, and then I play them the way they're set up, and then I give you the assessment. And his question was great back then. He said, don't you think that every guitar needs a setup? And I'm like, yeah, they do. And he goes, well, shouldn't you do the setup? And I know Hawkhead says you need chapstick. I do need chapstick, but I didn't realize I needed chapstick until the show started. So anyways, and by the way, that tells me whenever I have chapped lips, it tells me when I look at right now we're at 39% humidity, which tells me that the humidity is getting dry. It's getting dry in the room. So back to Aaron's assessment. I don't remember what I told you then. I'm pretty sure I told you what I'm telling you now, but I just thought about it when you were saying is that the reason I do that is because I realize everybody's buying guitars out of boxes now, and that's kind of like the thought process. Look, to me, if you buy a guitar from a store and it's set up and it's fine, then, it's fine. But to me, if you buy I think people really want to know is if I buy this guitar out of a box, what am I looking at? And then I try to give you the assessment of where it's at. And it's interesting. And I really believe this. I really believe that the companies have watched more of my deep dives than probably, I don't want to say any other YouTube channel. That's not what I'm getting at. But the amount of companies who have reached out to me and apparently have said that they've reacted to these deep dives in the ways that they reacted, which is almost like now they really understand not so much what everybody does. Not everybody's pulling out nylon socks and rubbing their guitars and putting calipers on them, but it's almost like they understand now better what a lot of them told me is they understand better what the delivery aspect needs to be to succeed, which is apparently 2 millimeters off the 12th fret, and your frets can't be sticking out, and you should be able to play some chords and some basic stuff. So, but yeah, I would put the lubricant on it, and then of course your guitar needs a setup, as you know. Did you get another Strat? I thought you got a Strat a while back, and so you must have got another one. You must be a Strat guy too, although I know your main thing's acoustic. Milo the Giant says, "Hey Phil, and everybody." So this is to everybody now. He says, "I just got my first Strat. I'm thinking of swapping out the string trees for a brass bar. Is there a difference between installing the bar parallel to the nut or an angle?" Well, you don't want to do it parallel to the nut. You want it to have down pressure. The whole point of a string tree is put down pressure on the nut. So on the string through the nut. That's really what you're trying to do, which is why they do staggered string trees. String tuning keys. Man, you can tell when I get to the second half of the show, my brain's just cached. So the reason we do staggered tuning keys is, again, we're trying to keep down pressure. We want, as soon as the string crosses the nut, we want that down pressure on the nut. It's going to help it for intonation. It's going to help for tuning stability. It's going to help in every way. Some people don't like the string trees because when you use the tremolo, you know, they add friction, which causes binding, and then therefore the guitar's tuning stability is compromised. Me, what I've learned is, funny enough, it's not really hard to figure out. I like a string tree on the E and the B string. I don't really care for the D and the G string, but if I do put a string tree on the G string, I don't put it on the D string because the D string's wound. It makes perfect sense that the wound string should not cross the nut or the string tree, unless maybe it's a roller string tree. So. Yeah, you want the downward pressure, and it's up to you to, you know, whatever you feel works for you, what material works. I have found that there's when people go, oh, get a roller string tree or get the New Bone or the Graphtec, and you know what, I've learned even the rusty, crappy ones work. Just depends on the guitar. So it's if my Journeyman Custom Shop Strat has a string tree that's rusted because they said it's, you know, that's how they make it. They make it rusted and it stays in tune. So, I mean, obviously you can use a rusted string tree and it's fine, which is crazy. But I think the big issue with string trees is the D and the G string. That's where the problems come from. Okay. So we have Coheed Cast Andy, Coheed, like Coheed and Cambria, raising a little one. Running out of space. Yeah, that'll do it. Have gear definitely not using, but worried I'm going to get sentimental. Help me, Phil, or you're my only hope. Oh, that's funny. Like, I love the reference. Look, well, first of all, congratulations on the little one. Nothing's cooler than, you know, having kids, in my opinion. For those that have kids, great. Those that don't have kids, nothing cooler than having a dog or cat. And then if you don't like dogs or cats, well, then nothing cooler than being alone. I don't know. But anyways, I'm trying for the joke, guys. So yes, that's exactly what happens when you sell stuff. You get sentimental for it and you go back to it. But you have to be, I can tell you this, I don't regret when I buy something back. Like I had a Paducah 4 before, and now I have another one. This one's better than the other one. The other one's neck was a lot smaller than this one. That's why I said I like this neck better. The reason I got rid of the other one is the neck was really tiny on that one. And that one's a little lighter, but it also came with black hardware, and I like the chrome because it looks more like what Nuno had. But I don't know. I really try not to, tell you, like, don't sell your stuff, keep it forever, because there's a downside to that. And if you sell your stuff, are you going to buy it back? Probably. But I don't think there's a win here. You either have stuff stocked up that you don't need, and then 10 years from now, you're like, why did I keep this? And if you sell it, 10 years from now, you're going to go, I got to buy it again. What I will tell you is this. If you think you're ever going to buy it again, don't sell it. That's one thing it took me a long time. Shauna taught that to me. She fights me on stuff. And so, my wife has been so nice to me sometimes that I've gone to sell something because she knows I'm not using it. And my logic is if I sell it, I'll have the cash and I'll buy something else and life will go on. And she'll take it and go, I'm keeping it. It works. Cause then, a year later, I'm like, can I have that guitar underneath the bed? Cause I miss it. So I don't know. But it's up to you. God, I wish I had a better answer. I'd love to see some of you guys' feedback on this, the whole selling stuff and buying again. It's really the dumbest thing we do as guitar players, is sell our stuff and buy it again, the same stuff over again. It's really a bad move. So if you can avoid it, don't do it. If you can't avoid it, well, just understand everybody does it, and there's a little bit of financial pain to it, but it's not the end of the world. DWC says, hey, Phil, how does Firefly deliver the quality that new Fender standards cannot? What's funny is, I'm glad you asked that, because here is a funny part of that story. So I've thought about this long and hard, and I have a theory, and I'm going to give it to you, and it's probably going to cause me pain. And right now my wife is wincing. She's not here, but I know she's wincing because she knows what I'm going to say. Okay, so you guys saw I interviewed Gabe, the CEO of Guitar Center, and in that interview, he said something that has just haunted the hell out of me, and it will not stop playing in my head. It's probably because of my age, and I watched the Brady Bunch as a kid, and all I always hear is like, Mom always said, don't play ball in the house. And I'm like, I can't stop thinking about what he said. And if you watch that interview, he says, when I was talking about competition online and competing and Guitar Center being competitive, he said, we're not interested. I'm paraphrasing. I'm messing up the exact quote, but I'm going to give you a general idea of what he said because you can watch the interview. It's in the interview where I did it. He said, we're not interested in competing with toy guitars from Amazon. Now, I want you to understand something. I owned a store, whatever, and I worked on guitars for 20 years, whatever, okay? None of that stuff matters. What really matters is this. I've reviewed so many. I've taken apart all these guitars. I've put them back together. I know what everybody's got. I know how everybody's doing it. And here's what's weird about that. He's wrong. He's super wrong. And I'm like, why is he so wrong? This doesn't make any sense. Here's why he's wrong. I reviewed all these guitars. I review Fenders and Squiers and Epiphones and Gibsons and PRSs and PRSSEs and, D'Angelico and, you name it. Just keep going down the thing, right? Heritage, GNL, I've reviewed everybody. But all these Amazon brands, these Fireflies, these, you insert the brand at the time, all these off brands that E-Art guitars, ERT, whatever you want to call them, right? They are delivering on dollar for dollar the best quality for dollar. Even when I'm like, oh, look what they messed up. Well, here's $2,000. It's messed up too, right? Anybody can mess up a guitar. The crazy part is how, like you said, how do they get a guitar for $200 with all those features and it not come out to be a crap show when you pull out of the box? But the bigger question is, why doesn't Guitar Center have that? Because when you go on Guitar Center's website, and by the way, this sounds like I'm bashing Guitar Center. Not. Watch. So go to Guitar Center's website. I dare you. Go right now. Type in $100 to $200, maybe $100 to $150, and see what's out there. And you're going to see not Epiphones and Squiers. You're going to see Epiphones with no finish, with no features. Squiers, again, slightly thinner bodies, no features. Ibanez, Geos, just again, low on the features, right? You're not going to see, there's no such thing, not new. Used, there's tons of great deals. You can go to Guitar Center, use and get great stuff. But new, you're not going to see stainless steel frets, a roasted maple neck, compound radius, Alnico pickups, everything you're seeing at these prices of $200. And then here's what's funny. You're like, oh, that's the thing about Guitar Center, but go to Sweetwater, same thing. You don't see it at Sweetwater. Go to Sweetwater. See, Jeremy says, Mitchell, look at Mitchell, feature for feature. Let's look at a Mitchell. Let's do it. We're in real time. The show's going to go in overtime today. Sorry, guys, because I got to, okay, watch this. Let's look at a Mitchell. We will do this. I hope I'm wrong. Because if I'm wrong, I'll actually be in a good mood. This will make me feel better. Okay, so we have Mitchell guitars. And we're looking for guitars, electric. I'll show you guys as soon as I'm in the right category. Electric guitars. Let's look at a Mitchell guitar. Okay. I'm not going to go through every single guitar. The first guitar I see right here is this guitar, Mitchell MD2000 for $229. Literally the same price as the Firefly I reviewed that came out yesterday. Let's see what Mitchell gives you, what Guitar Center's brand gives you for $229. Let's look at the spec sheets. Fret size, narrow, tall, fine. It doesn't say they're stainless steel, so they're not, because just like anything else, they put their best foot forward. The neck is shallow C. It's rock maple. That's not a thing. It's just maple. So it's maple. It's a dual action truss rod. Give them great quality for that. Pickups, mini HH and mini rail humbuckers. You know what? They're ceramic. I don't even care. We'll say that they're somewhat on the same layout. So this guitar, basswood body. Okay, now I want to say, so there's no confusion, I like basswood bodies. I have no problem with what guitars are made of. You can make a guitar out of plastic. I can really care. The question isn't what the materials are made out of. The question is, what is the cost you're assessing to the materials? Basswood is cheaper than alder. Alder is probably cheaper than mahogany. And, plywood is cheaper than all of those, right? So here's the thing. So for $229, Guitar Center will sell you a guitar that has a basswood body, which is fine, a maple neck. It looks like, is that a rosewood fretboard? Let's go back and look at the neck. Does it say? It doesn't even say. Oh, fretboard. Oh my God. Are you serious? You can't make this crap up. Fretboard. Materials, select hardwood. Thanks, Guitar Center, for that detailed analysis of... You see why I do deep dives? I'm glad they have select hardwood. I'm like, so that sounds like a flooring company. Hey, you should rent this apartment. It has select hardwood floors. So my point is, that guitar versus the Firefly, sure, we could say they're almost on par, but I will tell you that the stainless steel frets, the spoke wheel truss rod that lets you adjust it, the compound radius has value. Again, does a beginner need this? No. Roasted mahogany body on the guitar. Do they need that? No. And what else? Obviously, we already just... And again, it is executed. It was good. My point is that I can buy that type of guitar, that Firefly guitar, different brands, ER guitar, same thing. And if I put an ER guitar against this, same thing. I can buy that from Amazon with a amazing return policy. No issues. So I get it and I have issues, it goes right back. No questions asked. Just like Guitar Center, right? Just like Sweetwater. Sweetwater doesn't have anything either. In fact, Sweetwater doesn't even have the Mitchell line. And then you have to ask yourself, with Guitar Center's buying power, why isn't the Mitchell line much better? The Mitchell line could be Firefly. Why are they losing to the toy guitars? Like, again, he implied that the guitars that are on these Amazon sites and stuff, that these off brands, they're not very good. But the truth is, no, they're much better than the affordable brands that you're carrying. And so, Mitchell is the Guitar Center own brand. Sweetwater doesn't even have that brand. And then you have to go look, well, okay, here's something that's weird. So you have the two largest retailers in the United States, Guitar Center and Sweetwater. They really don't have anything that competes with that. But then if you go to Thomann in Germany, Thomann has that. Oh, yeah. Can't Stop Playing Music says, don't forget, locking tuners. Yeah, the Firefly had locking tuners. So Harley Benton, if I was going to the Harley Benton website right now, or Thomann, I think, and I'm not going to do it because I really believe I am right because I've done enough of these reviews, I really believe Harley Benton has something comparable to the Firefly guitar. In other words, so Thomann recognizes that they have to have something competing with these off brands that are throwing all these really nice features. And again, you could say that some of them are executed great, but a lot of them have been executed really well. So the question really comes down to, basically, how does Firefly do this price point? Well, they're selling direct to consumer, so you don't have to add in a retailer. A retailer wants at least 30 to 40% margin. That's at least. I would guess, I'd be shocked. In fact, I'd be shocked if Guitar Center was to tell me that Mitchell wasn't a 50% margin. So let's go back to this. So I can't imagine what's the point of owning the brand if you don't get double the margin. So that means they're into this for $115. So they make $115 from the sales. It's got a, look at that, it's got a 4-star review. That's not actually too horrible. So my point is, Firefly does it because they go direct. They don't have to add in the secondary seller. They keep their marketing budget low because they work with smaller YouTube channels, as you know. And then I go, okay, so the question isn't how does Firefly sell it so cheap? I don't think that's the question. It's a great question. I don't think it's the question. The question is, why doesn't Sweetwater and Guitar Center have comparable instruments? Why doesn't, look, I go to Kirkland. I'm on a rant apparently right now. I go to Costco, right? And Kirkland, there's a lot of great Kirkland stuff. I can buy Kirkland batteries. I can buy all kinds of stuff. And most of it's just repackaged from the actual brands. It's generic. I grew up with generic. Does anyone else grow up with generic when it was generic was a white? The packaging was white and either had a black or only a blue stripe and it said generic on there. So like if you got soda, it just said soda. It's, by the way, I'm just flashing back to how I grew up. That's what I got. Like when my mom went to the store, we got cheese. It just said, it was white and it just packaging, it said cheese. And then we got a soda and it just said soda. So anyways, and then later they started putting their brands on it. Like we went to Safeway and they put like Safeway Select. So it made it sound like it was something better, but it was like still just generic. But anyways, Kirkland Bourbon. Thank you, Tumbleweed. So the question is, why don't they have a better selection of that? And I have a theory, and here's my theory. The one way I explain Thomann, and again, this is all theory. I have no proof of any of this. I'm trying to assess in my head what I see and why it exists the way it is. So my theory is, when somebody asks me, and I say, oh, I went to Thomann for a week or 2 weeks, and somebody goes, what's Thomann? I go, it's like the largest retailer in Europe. I mean, it's in Germany, but it's not the largest retailer in Germany. It's the largest retailer in Europe. And they go, oh, how big is it? And I go, and this is what I say. I swear, this is what I've said to everybody. Anyone who's met me personally knows I've said this to you because I say it so much. I go, imagine Sweetwater if they never had Guitar Center as a competition. Like if Sweetwater was just Sweetwater and there was no Guitar Center, how big Sweetwater would be right now? That's how big Thomann is. It's like Thomann is what happens when you have a big retailer and there's just no other giant big retailer to punch back. Like there's not. And so I go, so Thomann basically dictates the world in Europe. And it's in my opinion, right? So imagine if you want to sell your stuff in Europe. I mean, I know I have friends that had in this industry who their wholesaler is Thomann. So not only do they sell to Thomann, but they sell to Thomann as the wholesaler that sells to the other stores in Europe. So where in the US you would have wholesalers and then there would still be giant retailers. So my thought is, I'm like, I wonder if the reason Guitar Center, just a theory, the reason why Guitar Center and Sweetwater, it's not that Firefly and those guys, how do they sell it so cheap? It's the reason why the retailers like Sweetwater and Guitar Center don't have something just like that guitar is because maybe the brands don't want them to have it. Maybe Squier and Epiphone and those brands, they don't want Guitar Center and Sweetwater to carry a better quality product at a lower price point in the name of hitting a price mark, right? But I think just like, and here's why. I know there's Sam's Club and I know there's competition, but just like Costco, I imagine Costco says, hey, we want to make a Kirkland version of this product. And if you don't like it, suck it because we're the biggest ever, right? I don't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe GC and Sweetwater, maybe they are divided. Maybe GC goes, hey, let's carry a guitar with stainless steel frets. And so, the big deal in the Firefly is not the stainless steel frets. It's the wheel truss rod adjustment because you can't screw it up. So even a beginner doesn't need a setup. No guitar like that should need a setup. You just adjust it. The only problem is if it needs fretworks. So I could imagine like Thomann, if they go, hey, we're going to make a Harley Benton version of your guitar. And the company goes, we don't like it. And Tomann's like, well, you can always not sell to us. And then what are we going to do? I'm not saying they do that, but wouldn't it be funny? But here's what I'm thinking. What if Guitar Center goes, hey, we're going to make a Strat looking guitar with stainless steel frets and Alnico 2 and 5 pickups and, a wagon, spoke wheel truss rod and locking tuning keys, and we're gonna make it $199. And then the Squire's like Squier Fender and all those guys are like, we don't like that, and we'll just sell to Sweetwater then. And then so maybe Sweetwater and Guitar Center are pitched against each other. I don't know. I just thought it was weird. Here's why this whole theory exists. I thought it's possible the CEO, Gabe, he's a very smart guy. I just want to tell you this. My assessment of the CEO of Guitar Center is very smart. Obviously, he was smart enough to know that when I went on a tirade on my show, he said, come out and talk to me. Because of course I have to now. I can't slam somebody publicly and then go, hey, I want to talk to you. And I go, nope, I had to go. And in that assessment, he gets to tell his side of the story, which was very important. And he was able to communicate to me his thoughts and vice versa. Smart guy is what I'm trying to say. So when I see a smart guy say toy guitars on Amazon, I got to tell you, it's in my face. If you watch the show, that interview, you could see my face reacting like, I don't know how to process what you're saying. Because I either come to one of two conclusions. Either A, he's never tried any of these inexpensive guitars that are really good, or B, he doesn't want to, right? And that's what I was thinking. So to answer your question, how do these companies do it? They do it because Firefly doesn't have a brand. They don't have anything. They're doing small quantities. They're selling direct consumer, and they're keeping the price point low. Do I think if Sweetwater or Guitar Center can do it? Probably, because Thomann does it with Harley Benton. And do I think Sweetwater and Guitar Center should have their own versions of Harley Benton? I don't know how I feel about that. However, I will tell you this. The biggest thing I have to deal with as a YouTuber, not a YouTuber, screw that. The biggest thing I have to deal with as trying to be a credible person on this platform when it comes to you guys is I have stress and I ache over all these inexpensive good guitars, and when I review them, because I'm constantly know that the Firefly guitar sold out in 3 hours yesterday. I don't get anything from them selling the guitars, and that's not the point. The point is I want you to have a good experience. I want you to have, if I have a bad experience, I don't want you to have a bad experience. I just want you to be aware you can. If I have a good experience, I want you to have a good experience. But it's a lot easier to deal with companies that are more credible. Mentioning like, hey, Guitar Center is giving us a $2,000 guitar to give away to you guys. That's really cool. They sent me the guitar and they're like, hey, send it to you and then we can give it away to a customer. So I would rather Guitar Center and Sweetwater have a version of Harley Benton. Because it's not like I don't want these small guys that are selling these off-brand guitars not to do well. I just it would be a lot better for me if you guys go, hey, I got one of those Mitchells that you talked about that had stainless steel frets and a spoke wheel truss rod and locking keys, and it was horrible. And I go, oh, and what happened? You got screwed? And you go, no, I walked it back in the Guitar Center, they gave me full refund, and I bought some strings. Like, that would give me, like, oh, that's so much easier to deal with. So to answer your question, I don't know how I know how Firefly does it. I explained it, but I don't know why they don't see them as competition. I absolutely see all these inexpensive brands that are throwing all these options and executing really well, and they're just getting better. Every brand that I can think of, and there's probably an exception, every brand I can think of that's an Amazon brand that I've dealt with in the last, say, 6 years, makes a better product now than it did 6 years ago. So they are getting smarter, they're getting better. And that's problematic because their prices aren't really moving. If you, I'll tell you, I'll end on this section on this, and then I got to wrap up some of the last super chats. The very first Firefly I ever did was like 4 or 5 years ago, and it was $179. I did a Firefly video yesterday. It was $229. That's not a huge increase in price compared to what you've seen in the last 5 years in prices. So the fact that the guitars got that much better and the prices didn't move, I think is problematic for a lot of the part of the industry, especially when we're talking about fair and the idea that I said it in that video yesterday. Yeah, the Firefly is made in China, but so is the Squier and Epiphone at that price point. So are the competitors at that price point. We got to get through these. We got to do Clan of Housecat says, hey, we saw Metallica for the first time. Weird to say as a huge Megadeth fan. Oh, yeah. Hold on. I got something to say about that. Now I've seen all the big 4 bands of thrash metal live. So now I'm curious what the other two are. To me, I'm going to screw this up. I mean, I can make all of you mad and unsubscribe right now. I'm going to say, since you mentioned Megadeth and Metallica and you said the big 4, for me, the big 4 on that genre, it's going to be Megadeth, Metallica, Slayer, and Anthrax. Please don't kill me if that's that's my 4. But his funny story is that you say that, huge Megadeth fan. My buddy Ralph, you guys know Ralph. Ralph is a huge Megadeth fan, and Ralph is such a huge Megadeth fan, he will not acknowledge Metallica in any way. Metallica came to town. I offered to buy him and his girlfriend and Sean and all of us nice tickets, like the nice ones, the expensive tickets to the show and have a great night. And Ralph said no. And his girlfriend's like, what? I want to see Metallica. And Ralph's diehard Megadeth, so no Metallica. So I'm proud of you for being a Megadeth fan and going to Metallica. So it's a thing. Is there an opposite to that? Is there Metallica fans that won't listen to Megadeth? I don't know. Does that exist? To me, it's Megadeth fans don't like Metallica as a whole. Like, I'm a Megadeth fan that likes Metallica. I like them both. But I think there's some but I don't know of a Metallica fan that doesn't like Megadeth. I don't know if it works that way. And please, no one send me emails, because I've had this happen to me before when when I talk about Megadeth, Metallica, some Megadeth fan will send me an email explaining to me what all the horrible things Metallica did to Megadeth and Dave Mustaine and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I understand. I know the whole story. I know all the stories. I watched the documentary where they all cried and the therapist saw. I get it. Jeff says, hey, Phil, are the setup files still available? Setup files. Jeff, do me a favor. Can you send me an email to what that is? I don't know what that means by setup files. Files are still available. Any files I've shown on my channel should be still available on the on either the three sources I've used is Crimson, StewMac, and Music Nomad. Those are the three biggies. Although I have a new company that I'm going to highlight because a patron asked me to check it out and I bought one. Pearson Instruments says, hey, Phil, just seeing if the Hyper B Deep Dive is still in the works. I'm looking forward to it. So if you guys don't know, Pearson Guitars, they make that aluminum guitar. And they said when I checked it out on the live show, and then what happened was they got in a fight with another YouTuber. This is my understanding. So a YouTuber got their guitar, said that there was some design problems with it. There was some kind of public kerfuffle. I try not to get into the drama of it, but that's my understanding. And it was over the design issue of the guitar. I personally did not have that issue with the design. I was aware of the design issue, but it was one of those things like it's not a typical quote unquote like Strat, like Strat is all about function, form and function. Where this guitar was, like I said, it's almost our artistic piece in the idea that it's just unique and different. So having something weird about it. So they redesigned the pickguard and he sent me a new body. So to answer your question, I have not moved I have to move the neck from the old guitar to the new body and then put it together and figure it out. We haven't got that far yet. So we'll probably do that and then knock it out. But interestingly enough, I was going to tell you, now that I understand, I thought you'd redesign the body or the guitar. Now that I understand you redesigned the pickguard, should have just sent the pickguard. So the good news for you guys is that we're doing a giveaway with that guitar. So that's why I got to make sure it's right because we're giving that guitar away. It's what we had talked with Pearson is that if he sent a guitar, we would give it away. So we'll do a giveaway with that. Bilbo Naggins, I think it's Naggins. Bilbo Naggins, Bilbo Baggins. Says, honest review of Throbak pickups. Is it worth it? And what kind you have? So honest review. I did not pay for my Throbak pickups. So that's about as honest as you can get. So look, I don't care if a company sends me a product to review. And, like I told you guys, the only thing I can't tell you, if I didn't buy it, I can't tell you the rapture, what it feels like to buy that. Here's the problem with Throbak. I have a full detailed review of the pickups. It's done. My patrons have seen it a long time ago. I haven't released it yet. I'm still working it out, massaging how I'm going to approach this. Here's my problem. So, and this will help you, I think, understand the problem. I'm not going to tell you that Throbak pickups are the best pickups I've ever played. It's not that. They're really cool because what they are is a replica of an original PAF pickup. There's a very expensive pickup and a very unique pickup. And they do it a very unique way. And here's the good. So let me give you the positive, the biggest positive. I have two Gibson Custom Shop Les Pauls. I have one Gibson Classic Les Paul. So if you look at the Classic, there's the Studio, the Classic, the Standard, then let's say called the Premium, and then we'll go to Custom Shop, right? Price-wise. So understand the second to lowest, the Classic. I would absolutely, without a question right now, sell my two Gibson Custom Shop Les Pauls. Absolutely. Okay. In fact, anyone who want to buy them, and as long as you want to pay for the right price, you can DM me tomorrow. I have an RO and an R9. I love my Classic better. The Throbak pickups, which are $900 basically a set, is crazy to think about. But keep in mind that $900 added to a Classic guitar price, now that I love that guitar more than a Custom Shop, is half the price of a Custom Shop. So if you ask me, would I pick a Gibson Les Paul Standard and put Throbaks in it over buying a Custom Shop? As long as I like that guitar, yeah. But the problem I have is I didn't pay $900. He sent them to me. So the problem I'm having is it's hard for me to say buy this pickup for $900 when I didn't. And my problem is that if John would have sent me the pickup and let me try it, I would have bought it. But he was nice enough to let me have it. So yeah. Do you need them? It depends what you value. If you want a really good pickup, you can get a Lindy Fralin set for $300. That is fantastic. You can get, look, I like the Seymour Duncans. I like, so, I mean, those are great. But bare knuckles, right? The mules, fantastic pickups. But if you want to have a pickup that is literally a replica down to the craziest detail of what original PAF is that now go for $9,000, $10,000, I'd say, yeah, you should do it. But it is a luxury purchase because I can't tell you that his pickup is better than anyone else's. It's just, it has a unique approach, and that's where I'm at with it. So, and yeah, that's it. So highly recommend it. So would I, after I sell my 2 custom shops, would I buy another set of Throbaks and throw them on another Gibson Les? I might. I almost want to buy a set and throw them. That's what I've been trying to figure out. I almost want to buy a set and throw in my RO and keep the RO and get rid of the R9. I don't know. I have no idea. The good news is this. I don't know if they're worth $900. I don't know how to explain that. It's so expensive. I just know they're really damn good. They're really damn good. And so when somebody says I can find something as good as that, I don't disagree with them. But the question, the question for you might be, if you bought them, would you be disappointed? You would not be disappointed. You just wouldn't have $900 anymore. Okay, Jeremy says, hey, what if modelers had a pickup selection tool? If they can model amps and cabs, why not pickups? There is. There might be. I did a pickup modeler. There's tech that do pickup modeling as well. So I mean, it could do that as well. But like we've discussed earlier, that with the modelers, that the really expensive ones really don't have some of the issues that some of the lower price ones have when it comes to reacting to pickups. That's my experience. I don't notice, like if I plug a PAF style pickup and then a super distortion pickup into my Kemper reacts to that. It literally, it does. It's the same thing. Like it's the same as an amp. But I notice on my Spark, which I absolutely love too, it doesn't react as much. It seems more, but that's okay because when I'm playing through the Spark, I kind of want everything to just sound good and I'm not really doing anything, over the top recording with it or anything. I'm just playing and practicing. Christian has 2 questions. Do you ever see PRS selling direct to consumers as the market gets worse and worse? So let's, okay. So let's handle that question. Never say never, but I can tell you right now, they really, really, really don't want to. So, I will tell you a story since we're way into bonus. This is gonna be the longest show I've ever done. Way into bonus. And since we're losing people now because it's so long, it's probably the best time to tell the story. So Fender decided they had some, if you guys remember, right? The boats showed up late and Fender had, millions of dollars of inventory and the dealers weren't accepting the product because the market had slowed down. This is just like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And, Fender sells direct, but more importantly, discounted everything and sold everything discount direct to consumers. And I bashed them publicly for it. I didn't think it was fair to the dealers because they said Fender's excuse was that the dealers canceled the orders. My excuse was, no, you made the dealers, you put pressure on the dealers, you made them order the stuff, and then they can't afford to pay for it because the market slowed down. So I'm not assigning the blame. I'm just saying it's not as easy as Fender made it out to see, in my opinion. So what happened was Fender sold direct at a discount. In fact, they gave 30% off and they sold direct, essentially selling to us customers what dealers pay for stuff, screwing the dealers. So I bashed them publicly. So this was never disclosed. I'm not under NDAs, so I'm going to tell you. So the people at PRS reached out to me after that podcast. And they said, can we talk to you? And I said, sure. And it was a really brief conversation. I don't feel like anything is wrong telling you guys this. They said, look, we have an overstock of SEs. You guys might remember this about one Christmas ago. We have an overstock of SEs and we're thinking about discounting them. And they were contemplating they said they never want to go direct customer, but they're contemplating going to direct customer. And they want to know how I feel about it. And I was like, well, what do you care what I feel about it? Well, look, it wasn't said, it was implied, well, we really don't want you to bash us publicly on your podcast like you just did Fender, right? And they said, we're thinking about giving the dealers a rebate, right? So basically what their plan was, they said, what do you think about us selling direct to consumers, but also giving the dealers a discount too, so the dealers can sell too and kind of work it out. And I said, well, that's way more than Fender ever did. So, I guess if you ask me and it comes up on my show, that's what I'll say, is that they did, you did way more than Fender did for your dealers. And they said, thank you for the feedback, but what do you think? And I go, I think you should just give the discount to the dealers. Let them reorder. But do whatever you want. You got to do whatever you want. And if you guys recall, Christmas, not this last December, the December 4 when they did that, that's when they were blowing out of the SEs. Remember that? You can get SEs for a nickel. The dealers, they went through the dealers. So PRS decided to go through the dealers. PRS told me that they just don't want to go direct to consumer. They like supporting their dealers. They like their dealers. They want to stay that way. So the answer to your question is never say never, but I've seen now that they've really tried to hold on to the dealer network and keeping things to go and keeping their integrity as much as they can. That's what I noticed. That is your second part of your question is, how much capital do you think you would need to open a music store in 2025? How much capital you need? Well, first of all, if you open a music store, I think you should do used gear. I would stay the hell away from most brands. This is the internet is going to win. Do I think mom and pops are going to die? No, but if they don't adapt, they're going away. I think used is a bigger thing to get into. How much would I suggest? I would suggest that you have first of all, you have to be smart and you go out there and get the product, used. I would say, I don't know what state and city. I'll tell you what I would do. If you ask me, like right now, if I decided to open a store, which I wouldn't, but if I was going to open a store, I would take probably $50,000 of inventory. That would be kind of what I'd focus on, and I'd have 3 to 6 months minimum of expenses covered. I would probably go 6 just because I'm a nervous person by nature. You definitely need 3, but 6, and like I told you before, and I've said this before, when it comes to opening a store, is no different than opening anything else, music store. It's all about how you negotiate your lease. Your lease is going to make or break your store, especially if now again, I'm assuming you're trying to open up a little store where it's just you and you just want to sell stuff and be your own guitars. You're talking about a real store where you're going to have employees and all that stuff. That's a totally different conversation. But I would say $50,000 in inventory is a good thing to shoot for. That's what I would definitely have. So you have something that's what I would open with. I would have a really good lease negotiated for sure, because that's your biggest expense. And then some working capital in case you're, to help you through through how rocky the first half year goes. James says, Music Go Round has the used only market well covered. No, James, there's not a Music Go Round in the city of Phoenix, and I live in Mesa, which is the 5th largest city in the country. There's no Music Go Round here. So the thing about used gear is this. Online, it's definitely all covered. Reverb has it all covered online, and then guitars there. But Reverb, no, that's the best thing about this. People are, because here's how it works. Why you need $50,000 of inventory. It's not to sell to people. So if you were going to open a store, so back to your question, you want to open yourself a little music store, okay? A guitar store. Let's just stick to guitar stores. You need some inventory to entice the trades and the buys. You need some capital to buy, because people are going to seek you out real fast. They're going to come in your store and they'll be like, I want to sell you this Squire. I want to sell you this guitar. And you're like, okay, you got to be able to buy them. So you need capital to buy used gear. You need inventory to trade. So that's how you're going to get your customers. You're going to say, hey, come in here and trade in your used gear and get some better used gear, something else you can use, something you want. And that's how you entice it. I would think you could do that with $50,000. The reason is because everybody's going to say a number, and the number, I don't know where they base it off of. But how I base the number off of, and again, what I don't know, Christian, is if we had a real serious talk about this, I'd have to know a lot of things, like how much is your mortgage? How much do you need to make a month? How much money do you need to make a month? Then I can tell you how much inventory it takes to make that monthly after costs, because that's the real number. To me, though, where I came up with $50,000, I'm not looking at a calculator right now, but if you had $50,000, you're going to flip about 15 to 20% of the inventory a month, period. That's just how it works. So if you had $50,000 of inventory, that's what you paid for it. You're going to try to sell that now for $100,000, right? Because the whole part of use is double your money. So if you have $100,000 of inventory, and you sell 15% of it in the first month, you have sold $15,000 worth of product, which is essentially $7,000 net. And then you're going to have rent, and your rent can be anywhere from $500 to $3,000, depending on where you are and how much traffic. So again, and then you're going to have credit card processing, electric bill, your sales taxes are separate. That's not in those numbers. So like I said, the whole point of the inventory is you have to figure out how much you need to make, and that's going to tell you how much inventory when you're starting out. But more importantly, you have to have choice inventory. You have to go out there and find it really, really well. So, yeah. And then again, that could be a whole 2-hour discussion of how to do that. All right, then we're gonna finish up with we got Grumpy Mike Guitar says, just wanted to say thank you for hosting this amazing guitar nerd gathering every week, even though this one went long. And Mr. S says, yep, those price hikes are greedflation. Absolutely, man, nuts. You know what's funny is, look, I'm not here to villainize everybody that's out there raising prices. Some of it's legit. Some of it is legit. And my heart goes out. Look, I don't want to pay more. No one is ever happy about a price increase. But, if they need to raise prices, they need to raise prices. But man, I just feel like the same culprits pop out. Like, really? You're the first to raise prices and the highest every time? Wow, what a shock. So it's always like, I don't know. All right, Devil Chicken, funny name, says, Phil, what are the main differences between a Bad Cat V and the Era 30 besides being designed by Mark Sampson and the ability to combine channels in the Era? I don't know. All the Bad Cats, let me just do this and make things easy with Bad Cat. Out of all the Bad Cats I've ever played, the Mark Sampson Era is uniquely different than the others. Notice I didn't say better. It's a great amp. I even said it's one of my top 5 best sounding amps I've ever played through. It is a different animal than the other amps. So the reason I tell you that is, if you've never played any Bad Cats, first of all, you need to get your hands on some and try them. But if you have, understand that if you played the Cub, if you've played the Black Cat, if you played, what's wrong with the metal one? They're not like the Mark Sampson one. They're just different animals. The Mark Sampson Era is really nice amp. It's like I said, you know what it is? The Era 30, I would say, when it comes to Vox clones, amps that are like Voxes but do what I like, it's kind of like how I praise Friedman over the Marshalls. If I'm praising the Vox guys over Vox, for me, and there's a lot of great ones, but I'm just going to tell you the two that stick in my Dr. Z and the Bad Cat Era, those two amps to me are the first ones where I plugged in and go, wow, this is the Vox thing, and it works with my playing, and it works with me, and I like it. So that's just my thoughts on that. And then thank you, Christian, for saying last super chat. And this one is Arnis, who says, for the overtime, love the show. Thanks for all you do. Thank you. This was overtime today. I'm sorry it went long. A lot of cool subjects, though. You guys are awesome. I will have the Kyber deep dive for you guys. It's filmed. I just haven't edited it. I got to put it together. And I'll finish that up. It'll be this weekend. My hopes and plans is for tomorrow. Worst case, it will go to Sunday. And then, but worst case, so if you guys are curious about the new Kyber and deep dive, I hope you guys check it out. And I want to thank you all. And then if you're a patron or thinking about patron, Sunday's clinic. So we have live clinics every week on Patreon if you're $10 and above. So if you're interested, you just pay $10. You don't have to pay for the year. It just gives you a discount if you do. You pay $10 and you get to see live clinics, and then all the clinics are backlogged, so you can see them all. Plus, I do some instructional videos. The point of the clinic is I do a theme every week, and then you can ask me questions, and it's not like here. The biggest one we had is 13 people live at that time. So let me just tell you, you're getting your questions asked. But this Sunday's clinic, I'm just telling you so you know, is how to set up a Paul Reed Smith tremolo bridge. And the only reason I'm doing this is because the patrons asked, but also there's not a whole lot of videos on the internet about this. So I went and looked and I watched them all, and there was like 6, and none of them were very detailed. So I really feel like this is going to be really cool. So if you're curious about that clinic, I'm just letting you know that's how the weekly clinics work. As always, guys, I want to thank you so much It was such a good show. And I'll let you know what happens to the N4, how that all plays out. And the rest of you go play guitar now. Maybe spend some time with your friends and families. And have fun. All right, guys. Thank you, guys. And know your gear.
The Know Your Gear podcast. The Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. Thank you for making this possible.